misogynist movement on Earth? This is why.
You're a teacher. Yes. What is a woman?
What is a woman? Oh, buddy. All right. So we define gender as a set of preferences that you have. Gender is a set of preferences we have. Woman is a social construct that we've agreed upon. Typically, we imagine womanhood as makeup or whatever. It is. There is a difference between the word woman and being a biological female. Woman is a social construct that we use. Listen for a second. I'm telling you what it means. Woman is a social construct. We agree on these set of preferences. If I tell you that I'm a man, it's because I want you to know that I like these set of preferences. If I tell you I'm a woman, it's because I want you to know that I agree with these set of preferences.
Can men give birth?
Can men or can males? Because males can't. Listen for a second. If you listen to your bio professors, you would understand there's a difference between biology and what we think
So
about.
I want to thank you for proving a great point.
What?
You are why we should eliminate the Department of Education. Thank you very much.
I'm going to replay that in a second because I've been told by the audience that people would prefer if I played the video through before opening my big trap. I'm going to tell you the first thing that bothers me the most about this kid. He kind of looks like me. You know, in a younger universe, this dude is me with shorter hair. I used to have glasses like that. In fact, I think I might even have a pair. I got the similar pair right here, my old pair. So the fact that we might actually be related if we go back far enough is irritating. When I tell you, I'm going to pause it right after the moment of pure, unbridled misogyny. You already know where we're going with this.
You're a teacher. Yes. What is a woman?
What is a woman? Oh, buddy. All right.
He was getting ready for the own. Like, oh, buddy, I got it right here. A woman is an adult female with two gametes that lay eggs. I forget what the exact definition. Oh, buddy, I'm gonna school you here.
Define gender as a set of preferences that you have.
Being a woman is a set of preferences. That's not even the most offensive part.
Gender is a set of preferences we have. Woman is a social construct that we've agreed upon. Yeah. Typically, we imagine womanhood as makeup or whatever.
Typically, we agree upon womanhood as being makeup and whatever. Only if you're a filthy misogynist, you loudmouth misogynist. Oh, typically, being a woman is, it's being in the kitchen and it's cooking stuff, right? That's what it means to be a woman. And, it means being a bad driver, and it means always trying to get the last word. Am I right or am I right, people? That's what the social construct of being a woman is. Oh, my goodness. Makeup. Makeup is, that guy looks at women and says, oh, yeah, what makes you a woman is makeup. So any guy that decides to wear makeup can therefore say he's a woman based on the most misogynistic stereotype ever. It's wild. But that own at the end, this is why the Department of Education needs to be abolished. I'm not going to become one of those zealots that promotes homeschooling. Many of you know, if you're not new to the channel, that we're homeschooling our third kid. Not the least of which reason is schools are not meant to deal with rambunctious. Let me rephrase that. Schools now are no longer equipped to deal with rambunctious boys. Public schools. I'm not sure it's much better in private schools. But when you have a class of majority girl kids and you have, what's the word I'm looking for? The staff that is virtually exclusively 20-some-odd-year-old females. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you get an email that says, your son today was mixing his food over lunch, and he did a cannonball into the beanbag, and his desk was not clean enough, so when the desk fairy came by, your kid didn't get a candy cane reward for having a clean desk, but the kid next to him got the candy cane, the kid who wasn't there. And then your kid took the other kid's candy cane who wasn't there, who got a reward for having a clean desk from the candy fairy or whatever the hell it was, the desk fairy. And I was going to respond to this email with fists of fury. I was going to say something along the lines of Uncle Buck out of Uncle Buck, John Candy out of Uncle Buck. I don't think I want to know an 8-year-old boy who doesn't mix his food at lunch. And by the way, biology teacher, it all comes out your butt in the same texture. He's going to mix it in his belly or on his desk, whether you like it or not, you dumb bum. Oh, he did a cannonball into the beanbag? Did the beanbag pop? Did he hurt himself? Oh, I'm sorry. What do you want him to sit in the corner and like twiddle his thumbs all day? Holy sweet merciful hell. So we took our kid out of school and we're homeschooling him now. That teacher is a painful misogynist. And these are the people that are indoctrinating children, your children, day in and day out. Now, many of you might be saying, Viva, what about your other 2 kids? First of all, we have a very open household and we talk about everything. And so what, is indoctrination in schools that becomes a dinner time conversation, they're going to get exposed to it one way or the other. But when you start getting emails from teachers saying your kid was mixing his food at lunch and did a cannonball, I'm like, all right, you're setting this up to like put my kid in a corner and make him into a problem kid for being a normal kid. And holy hell, if those are the standards, I would have been institutionalized as a kid. I was telling my daughter's best friends what we used to do as kids before I got expelled from 2 high schools. I went to 3 high schools in 5 years, but even in elementary school, the stuff that we did would put kids in jail today. But that's the teacher. And they don't even understand that they are the bigots, racist, misogynists, xenophobes, transphobes, whatever, when they say, oh yeah, well, if you like putting on makeup, you must be a woman. No, woman exists, but womanhood is a social construct only to a misogynist. Nobody gives a sweet bugger all what your preferences are. If you like wearing makeup, if you like, doing whatever with your body parts, being a woman means being able to reproduce the adult female carrying 2 gametes, whatever the eggs are. Good evening, everybody. How goes the battle? Welcome to another evening of Viva and Barnes Law for the People. Barnes will be here in a few minutes. The rules of the evening, everybody. We're live across all platforms. CommuTube, Rumble, Twitter, and vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Some of you might be saying, Viva, why are you still on CommuTube? We do the Sunday night show across all platforms so that we can adequately and thoroughly promote Rumble and our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community. My daily show throughout the week is exclusively on Rumble. I've got the 3:00 time slot in the Rumble lineup. Check it out daily, and I post the clips to CommuTube thereafter. I'm going to do everything I can to get to all the tip questions, super chats, and Rumble rants. In our locals community, we get to them in the vivabarneslaw.locals.com after party. I notice one coming in from CommuTube, which is from Kai C., which says, Tucker's miscalculated and rather unhinged attack on Nick Fuentes while speaking with Candace was a terrible look and decision for him. Changed my mind. Hold on, let me show you this. I'll tell you one thing. I hate the terrible look phraseology. I haven't finished that podcast yet. I'm about halfway through. And I keep the more I hear Candace talk about Macron, I don't believe that Brigitte Macron was born a male. But Candace makes a compelling argument for it. And she does raise some... Okay, we'll get there in a bit. So I will do my best to get to all of them. Oh, in Rumble, let me set up the Rumble things here. Share the link around, people. And I would say come to vivabarneslaw.locals.com, which is the best place to support the work that Robert Barnes and I do. Before we get into tonight's show, I see Barnes is in the back, but I want to just blast Canada, or I should say put Canada on blast. Oh, shit. Someone's going to clip that, and now I'm going to be on a watch list in Canada. Put Canada on blast, because you talk about the 2S LGBTQIA plus community and how it's misogynist, how it's xenophobe, how it's ultimately the most homophobic movement out there. I don't use the word anti-Semitic, or anti-Semitism very often at all, because I have this very, very deeply held belief that people are just assholes. And anybody who is anti-Semitic is just an asshole. Anybody who looks at a black person and says they are fill in the blank because they're black. I mean, people are assholes. And if someone wants to hate someone for their skin color, their religion, their race, their creed, their sexual orientation, they're going to find reasons to hate anybody. So people are assholes. The 2S LGBTQIA plus community are filled with a bunch of victimhood people who basically hate everybody. They hate everybody. They operate on the most archaic stereotypes of what it means to be anything. And they're homophobic because they take a look at young people who would otherwise turn out to be normal gay people and say, oh, you're a boy that's attracted to other boys. No. You're a broken gay person. You need to be a woman. And we need to go lop off your genitals, give you puberty blockers, mess up your body for the rest of your lives because you're actually in the wrong body. You're just not, attracted to males anymore. Homophobic, period. But the ultimate underlying point in all of it is the revolution devours itself. When you have people that are only looking to find villains for their own elevation, put themselves out as victims for their own elevation, they will invariably, inevitably, and necessarily begin fighting among themselves. And I just sit back and watch and laugh. I throw my head back and laugh. This is going on in Canada, people, and I kid you not. As Fierté Montréal begins, Fierté is French for pride. Organizers say Jewish LGBTQ plus group excluded from parade. They found a new group to hate. What's that? You're of the Jewish 2SLBGTQIA plus. Well, you're not welcome because of what's going on, presumably in Gaza. Just as the Fierté Montréal kicked off Thursday, the organization's board of directors announced it would exclude groups it considers to be, quote, spreading hateful discourse from this year's Pride Parade. The announcement was made Wednesday evening. One of the excluded groups was quick to react. Ga'ava, I don't know what that means. A Montreal-based student-run Jewish LGBTQ plus group responded on social media saying it was deeply shocked to learn that LGBTQ plus Jewish people and their allies would be excluded from the 20th. There are no allies among these types of revolutions. There are only future enemies. Oh, you thought you'd be spared? No, you'll just be next up on the wall. Oh, we're terribly offended. We thought we only went after cis white gender males. Oh, we only went after the true oppressors. Now you're coming after me? Quote, this exclusion based on flimsy, politically motivated reasons decided behind closed doors, pun intended, under pressure from groups that hate Jews, deny Israel's existence, and whose members celebrated the atrocities of October 7, 2023, is a deeply discriminatory and undemocratic process. No, but it was totally cool when we, excluded white cisgender males. That was fine. They deserved it. We don't. We're victims. This decision will profoundly hurt. This decision will be profoundly hurtful to LGBTQ plus Jews. Well, what do you learn from it, Carlos Godoy? What do you learn from it? Look at this. And they're still throwing the pride flag behind. We're still among the victims, people. How could you exclude us? In an interview, a spokesperson for Fierté Montréal said the board's decision followed complaints received by the organization's ombudsman and was in line with new policies implemented this year. Enjoy fighting among yourselves. I got to tell you, it doesn't give me pleasure, but I do enjoy watching it. It's very important to clarify no person or group is judged based on their faith when it comes to participation in any of our activities, said board member Marlo. Her name is Marlo. Okay, there's something going on with this name. Marlo. Who is that person? Any group or faith that shares our values is welcome. What's regulated speech doesn't align with Fierté. Fierté declined to specify which other groups were barred from participating or to provide examples of how they were allegedly spreading hateful discourse. Well, I'm sure if they said Israel has the right to exist, that's considered hateful to some people. I mean, silence is violence. So, hey, you don't even have to have said anything, Jewish LGBTQ+. Your silence on what is going on in the Middle East is violence. You're out. You either bend the knee and say the line or you're out. In a press release, they also clarified his position on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, calling for immediate and lasting peace and condemning the ongoing genocide. We denounce all forms of violence. We amplify the voices of queer communities who, on our stages and in our spaces, express their support for oppressed peoples, particularly the Palestinian people. Wait until the Jews are out, and then the LGBTQ plus remaining groups, and I don't know, religions that are not necessarily tolerant of 2S LGBTQIA plus stuff. Wait until the infighting happens there. I don't think we need to read the rest of this crap, do we? We don't. So that's that, people. Welcome to Canada. It's an insane asylum that is being run by the patients. All right, until Barnes gets here, let me see what's going on in our Leave Up Barnes. Oh, I hear him. He's here. He's coming, people. While he gets here. Oh, he's there. Robert, hold on 1 second. Let me just do one. Oh, hold on. I'm an idiot. I didn't do our ad read yet, Robert.
Go ahead.
You're in for it. I forgot to say. Well, it's here. Let me bring this up. It is Black Forest Supplements, our sponsor of the evening, people. The link is in the description. And everybody, if you didn't know this, studies have shown that cocoa flavonoids. I cannot hear the word flavonoids without thinking of the scientist, Professor Frick from The Simpsons. Cocoa flavonoids stimulate stem cells and go to fix whatever is wrong with your body, and it's pretty awesome. They go out and find whatever needs to be repaired. If it's your heart, your skin, your liver, your joints, whatever, it goes out, fixes it. Now, here's the thing. You can't just eat chocolate and get it, because a lot of cocoa is taken out during the chocolate making process. They throw in a bunch of other crap like sugar and a bunch of stuff that you don't necessarily want. That's where Black Forest Supplements comes in. They found a way to extract the good stuff to stimulate the stem cells without any of the extra sugar and all the other crap that you have in. Don't think you're going to eat M&Ms or not M&Ms, Smarties, whatever the hell they are, and make yourself healthy. Personally, you just take this. You take it like a cup of coffee in the morning, add a little bit of cream, mix it up. It tastes great, and it's good for your body. We have asked them to give all of our viewers a special promo. And if you go to the store, you're going to get 45% off the store-wide for the next 48 hours. Go check it out, people. The website is blackforestsupplements.com/Frei, F-R-E-I. Do I have my Black Forest stuff here? I don't have my Black Forest stuff on my desk here. Link is in the description. Go get your cocoa flavonoids, people. They're flavonoids, but link is in the description. Thank you, Black Forest Supplements. Robert, sir, how goes the battle?
Good.
Do I see? Okay, you got a box of cigars behind you. You're still setting up the home studio, or is it? We need the book. We need to know what book to read. And there's a picture of a gun behind you.
That's a gift from one of our board members. So yeah, this is still temporary accommodations for the time being. The got a bit of a cold. The came down with but we've got a very big set of litany as usual of legal and political topics to cover tonight.
Robert, you're gonna have to like field it in terms of navigating these segues. But do you want to briefly summarize what's on there, and we're gonna.
So the number one voted topic was the Supreme Court is considering taking out racial redistricting. The number two topic was Trump was talking about nuclear war this weekend. I don't know if anybody had Trump getting trolled into nuclear war as one of their bingo options. I'm pretty sure that wasn't there. Medvedev is now the master troll of the world. We've got a bad decision out of the Ninth Circuit on vaccine mandates. Hopefully the Supreme Court takes one of these. Or we need new legislation and fast. We have the national security concerns. Remember the assassination that Bongino and everybody said, no, nothing further to see here? Well, not according to the Justice Department, because the Justice Department is begging the court to not disclose information about the assassin for national security.
Well, and just to clarify, that's not Butler, Pennsylvania. You're talking about the Mar-a-Lago Ryan
in Ukraine. The first one was taken out, so we'll never know what the whole truth was there. We've got multiple judicial coups on immigration. They're circumventing the various rules that the Supreme Court laid down in universal injunctions by doing exactly what Justice Alito said they would do. They are now issuing universal injunctions again on temporary protection, TPS, temporary protective status on immigrants that were paroled, and on birthright citizenship. Nationwide injunctions are back in form with federal courts on the immigration topic. Google and BlackRock both lose major antitrust cases or at different stages of the case. Russiagate continued to expand and went to a place that some of us had been saying it would go if you scratch just a little bit beneath the surface, to Hillary Rotten Clinton and one George Soros. We've got the ongoing debate about the Gaza. Is what is happening in Gaza, is it an ethnic cleansing? Is it a genocide? Is it something else? Is it simply self-defense? We have Mearsheimer discussing it with Professor Mearsheimer with Tucker Carlson this week. And then that triggered the debate. Robert Kennedy was retweeting out others that had a different perspective on whether it fit that definition. George Samueli, who we previously interviewed in the Gaggle, he had his perspective. So what is all that? And of course, Mike Davis decided to go on a full BoomerCon tweet this weekend saying, yeah, genocide. Woohoo!
Well, I get accused of defending you, but I'm not going to let people malign you in terms of your legitimate and righteous critique of anybody who deserves it. We're going to get to it in a bit.
And then we've got hate speech rules. Is that what's happening? I may have to issue a mea culpa to the one Glenn Greenwald. I didn't think that was what is happening. As Cernovich did a deep dive, he found not only is there potentially hate speech codes that Glenn Greenwald identified being imposed by the Trump administration, but there's a whole new DEI policies being imposed by the Trump administration right at the same time they're doing great work on other aspects of DEI. We'll get to what the heck fire is going on there. We've got Epstein back still in the news. Ghislaine Maxwell moved overnight in secret to a low-security facility. I'll explain what that means within the Bureau of Prisons. And she filed her petition to cert to the Supreme Court of the United States. We'll review that. And then it came out there's all these redactions that were being ordered by President Trump as this scandal just keeps getting worse and worse and worse for the Trump administration, unfortunately. Trump's tariffs went to the trade court. Do his recent decisions, including on India and Brazil and BRICS and Russia, jeopardize the ability for him to win in front of that court based on some of the questions being asked by the Court of International Trade? It looks like Trump is going to lose on the tariff issue because of his recent politicization of tariffs away from industrial policy. Laura Loomer exposed as a grifter, which some of us have been saying for quite some time, this time working for a big pharmaceutical interest that is putting out a very dangerous drug to get a high-ranking person kicked out of the FDA. In the same way, Pam Bondi, Pam Barbie, Pam Not So Bright Bondi, Pam Hope Pay for Play Barbie, is caught again in another corruption scandal. This time, she coordinated to make sure the antitrust division did not go forward with a meaningful antitrust prosecution while people made kind of the right donations and the right connections behind the scenes. Exposed by the U.S. editor of Unheard, who's, by the way, a Trump supporter, but another embarrassing example of pay-for-play Pam looking worse and worse for the Trump administration and the Justice Department. And then we got Dear Tish, someone who should be in jail for her obvious fraud that's already been exposed, but somehow has managed not to be criminally prosecuted by this same Justice Department yet, trying to force trans treatment on kids around the world. And last but not least on our list of topics tonight, we've got crypto. But I know there were some questions asked briefly about the Candace Macron-Tucker interview. I had a few comments on it, but we're not going to spend too much time on it.
Well, don't you get me into? We'll get to that one in a second. Let's start from the beginning.
By the way, a great little gift from one of our members, Never in Writing. Got another one that's always in cash. Got another one that's Viva Barnes Law. So thanks to the generous member who came up with these very cool ones. And hey, John Brennan, you should have been thinking about this when you were doing your Russiagate scams. Same with Hillary Clinton. Same with George Soros. Never in Writing, everybody.
And by the way, if anybody wants to get some good merch also, go over to Viva Fry. This is how you can support Robert Barnes and I. If you don't want to do this, go to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Robert, let me pull up. I'm going to pull up the video, but I'm not putting any audio on it because YouTube will not only claim it, they'll shut the stream down. So Mike Benz is now covering this. Let me make sure the audio's off on this. There's music in the background. I think it's the Killers. He's reacting to what is now being, not passed off as, but what seems to be clear evidence that Ryan Ruth, the assassin or the would-be assassin from Mar-a-Lago, is intelligence, was related to intelligence. The tweet that Mike Benz is reacting to here says, Afghan soldiers, the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine is working very hard to finance this project and has asked the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense for a detailed plan on how the money will be spent. Vladimir and MOD are working very hard, very enthusiastically until they provide the information they need. Give us a few more weeks, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Now, I love Mike Benz. There's no but to this. Mike Benz has been ahead of the curve on a lot of this. When it came to Ryan Ruth, and we were covering this from the beginning, I'm just wondering what is news about this, because this video, for those of you who don't remember, is Ryan Ruth being interviewed by Newsweek, talking about how he was recruiting, I believe, trying to recruit Iranians for the Ukrainian army, and talking about how he was actively involved with the Ukrainian army. I'm going to give everybody the link just so that I have the receipts and that you guys don't accuse me of anything. And at the time when we were watching this and I was going down this rabbit hole, let me bring up another one that I had at the time where I said jokingly that the pro-Ukrainian crowd is really having to dissociate themselves from this guy, where he had Truth for Justice saying Trump's assassin Ryan Ruth's book is about being a global citizen. In his book, he calls for the assassination of President Trump. This was published in 2023 and is still on his ammo. The FBI and the CIA are involved. The wealthy bankers and globalists are behind the Trump assassination. Well, without affirming or denying that, at the time, I was saying that this guy clearly has ties to intelligence. You don't have the criminal record that Ryan Ruth had, and be able to fly to and from Ukraine and own firearms. This was his criminal record. Ruth's arrest in whatever here in Carolina spans between the 80s and 2010s. His charges range from writing multiple bad checks to felony firearm possession, possession of a stolen vehicle, multiple counts of possession of a weapon of mass destruction. I think it was a machine gun. Specifically a binary explosive with a 10-inch detonation cord and a blasting cap. Okay, and at the time,
Well, it looks like a perfect candidate for Ukraine to recruit.
well, so what is
Ukrainians were getting together this weekend at a soccer game, and they couldn't help themselves. They started doing the Nazi salute, the real Nazi salute, because that's who they are. Why we're still on this side is beyond me. But to your point, what Mike Benz identified, he said everything about this guy screams State Department, that he has deep State Department ties for him to be able to be doing what he was doing. And then it's like, okay, how did a guy with State Department ties and Ukrainian ties end up with a gun and the opportunity to assassinate the president of the United States, future president of the United States, past president of the United States at that point? And a lot of us were like, what the heck? Especially when you combine it with the oddities of the Butler assassination. And now Judge Cannon said the Justice Department comes in and says, there's something in this file that really incriminates him, but we can't let anybody in the world know what it is. It's like, what? And that national security concerns require this information to be sealed and kept secret from the world. And it's like Mike Benz was like, okay, why don't you just come out and say? Benz was right. Benz was like, this confirms his thesis that this guy is a State Department guy, that this guy's Ukrainian ties. And what I wonder is, does President Trump himself know that over at the Justice Department under Pam Pay for Play Bondi, that she is hiding this information? Is she hiding this information from the president? Is she hiding it from him? Not just hiding it from the world, but hiding it from President Trump. Because wouldn't it maybe be a factor in how he's considering everything going on with Ukraine? If the people that are pushing him into further involvement in Ukraine tried to murder him, wouldn't that be interesting to know? Wouldn't that be relevant to know? I sure want to know. But it's just more evidence that we're not going to get any justice out of the Department of Injustice while Pay for Play Pam is there.
And just so people don't think I was wrong, it was in fact a weapon of mass destruction. In 2002, he was convicted of possessing a machine gun, which was classified as a weapon of mass destruction. I think the blasting caps were probably in addition too. There was zero question as to how he was, that he must have been let off the hook like other known criminals by intelligence and then used for whatever the purposes were. Yes. If it was recruiting, I believe it was recruiting Iranian, I want to say terrorists.
And wasn't his son like ultimately tied to child porn?
No, that now you might be. I don't know if you're thinking of Vegas right now.
Which one?
Vegas? Well, the Vegas brother of.
Oh no! I mean this one. I think if you look it up, there's something broke in the last month or so. There was somebody tied to one of the assassin attempt. I thought it was his son was caught on child pornography.
Yes, you're right, Robert. His son, Oren.
Almost like it's all like a little Epstein thing. Oh my goodness! If I keep talking, I'm going to sound like Candace Owens. These people tend to swim in the same pool, you might say.
The son of Trump's alleged would-be assassin, this is September 20th, is charged over child sex abuse images. Alrighty, so we are now. So the question now is whether or not this information is being disclosed to or withheld from President Trump, and whether or not
the American people need to know who tried to kill and murder the president. I don't accept Bongino saying there's nothing else to see there in Butler, and now we know there's something else to see here because they're demanding the judge keep it secret, and the judge has agreed to keep it secret. And it's like, whoa, what's so national security about this guy? And I suspect they're keeping the secret from the president. I mean, we know he's getting bad intel because he went out. There's a good transition into the nuclear war one.
Yep.
He got the intel he got is that Russia, the Ukraine has been doing this from the beginning of the conflict. It's confession through projection on steroids. So they take however many of their casualties they have, and they pretend that's the Russian casualties. And they take however many Russian casualties there are, and they pretend it's theirs. It's been obvious to anybody, including defense politics, Asia, the military history, military legends, history legends, other people that we've had on here. as well, who have no bone in the fight, don't care one way or the other. War in Ukraine. There's a bunch of sites that all they do is follow this. Have been pointing this out from the get-go. Russia employed deep battle strategies, so they use mass ammunition and then only come in and clean up late. This is why they're going slow. It's amazing that people couldn't put this together. Like people say, "Oh, Barnes, if you're the aggressor, you always have far greater losses." Like the U.S. in Iraq. I mean, these people can't put one and one together. Indeed, it's like if it's the case that there's and then somebody else said, "Well, there's all these losses, then Russia would be in Kiev." Well, but if you believe Trump's what he's saying, then Russia should be all out of Ukraine by your own logic. The bottom line is, but he goes out and he says 100,000 plus Russians dead since the beginning of the year and only 8,000 Ukrainians dead since the beginning of the year. Why is it that whenever they do a body exchange, Ukraine can't find any Russian dead bodies while Russia comes up with thousands and thousands of Ukrainian dead bodies? So it's obvious somebody is giving him fake intel, fake information, fake news that's leading him to make bad decisions about how to try to do secondary sanctions on China and India. That's going to create a whole host of legal issues, which we'll get to in a bit.
Let me read it, Robert, because I don't think everybody knows of this particular truth post. He says, I've just been informed that almost 20,000 Russian soldiers died this month in this ridiculous war. Russia has lost 112,500 soldiers since the beginning of the year. That's 7 months, because we're not yet done August. This is a lot of unnecessary death. Ukraine, however, has also suffered greatly. They have lost approximately 8,000 soldiers since January 1st, and that number does not include their missing. Ukraine has also lost civilians, but in smaller numbers as Russian rockets crashed into Kyiv, yada, yada, yada. This is Biden's war, not Trump's. I'm just here to see if I can stop
Trump's war. I mean, he wants to keep pretending it's not his war. The longer he has Witkoff over in Russia as we speak. And they're still pitching the same nonsense ceasefire. Russia's made clear what their terms are. They're like, we'll do a ceasefire if you agree not to rearm. They refuse to agree to that. And they've said what their agreement is. We'll just hold where we're at territorially. We'll just stay there in our 4 territories that are historically Russian, filled with Russian people that want Russia there, that voted for Russia to be there. We'll stay there as long as you agree to no NATO and disarmament. You're not going to have this huge military right on our borders. That's it. And we refuse to deal with that. No. You must agree to our terms. And it's ridiculous. Well, we're the loser, but we demand you to do our terms. He recognizes that Hamas has very little leverage in Gaza beyond PR. So he doesn't, he's like, no, Hamas has to capitulate because Hamas is the weak party in that negotiation. But he reverses himself on this. And I think it's because he's getting fake information. He's getting false information constantly.
Well, okay, so I was trying to find the tweet where he was talking about the job numbers, where I can say, okay, that I can understand is a mistake I'll put it in quotes, that he makes on purpose, because A, it makes him look better, and B, it allows him to fire someone he doesn't like. There's no way to make an argument for a good, like if you were doing this deliberately, being inaccurate with the numbers,
right?
It's so...
He's doing this because he believes it, and it's completely false. Everybody that's watching it knows it's false. Or anybody that has, an IQ over 50 knows it's false. Anybody that's followed the war knows it's false. McGregor, who was part of the Trump administration before, has pointed out how absurd this is. Others have pointed it out too. So you can find 1,000 sources and get basic everyday proof of it. That this is false. But he clearly believes it because he wouldn't have put that out there. So he thinks Russia's losing so many bodies and their economy is in such bad shape that I can just put a little pressure on them and they'll fold. And he's baffled when they don't. It's because his intel is wrong. Russia is winning the war. Russia has designed a strategy to radically limit the number of people they lost, to maximize casualties on the other side, minimize casualties on their side, and move inch by inch by inch. It's old Russian deep battle policy from what they call the Great War. World War II is what we know it here in the States. And so that's and then it's the same with his response of escalating nuclear war talk, which I couldn't believe. I was like, you got to be kidding me. You're literally sending nuclear submarines to Russia, nuclear power, because of somebody's tweet? Somebody's tweet? I mean,
Robert,
Trump has lost his mind when he's doing things like this.
Okay, so I saw the tweet as well, and I not took it with a grain of salt. I said to myself, on the one hand, they don't need, as far as I understand the power of nuclear weapons or the capabilities, they don't need to have submarines in that specific area in order to effectively launch nuclear missiles. Second of all, if you're going to do it, you don't tell people that you're doing it because it becomes sort of academic. Flip side, however,
nuclear submarines, by the way, which are only mostly useful. Well, for Russia has far more than we do, but if people don't know where they're at, you don't broadcast where they're at, which is what he did. I mean, for people who don't know the backstory, the former president of Russia is kind of like a master troll now on social media. He has a high-ranking position within the Russian government, and Putin lets him out of his cage now and then to do this, to just remind people, hey, by the way, it's what Trump bragged he used Bolton for. Same thing. So he's been razzing loser lady Lindsey Graham, who got a great primary challenger this week, Paul Dans, was the real deal, part of the first Trump administration that swampy Susie Wiles ran out of this administration. But now he's running for the U.S. Senate in South Carolina. He'd make an awesome United States senator. There'll be more on him to come down the road. We'll probably have an interview with him and some other things. But so Medvedev, Lindsey Graham, basically says, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to treat Russia. We're going to do to Moscow what we did to Iran. So he basically threatens a regime change military strike. So Medvedev first responds by just saying, hey, Gramps, first, we're going to do what we're going to do. Buzz off, Lady Lindsey. So Lindsey Graham escalates. Newt Gingrich goes on TV. He escalates. You have a U.S. general for NATO in Europe saying we're going to go in and take Kaliningrad and we can take it overnight. So you've got all this escalation coming. And you've got, it being leaked about Trump supposedly telling Zelensky, could you bomb Moscow? Could you bomb St. Petersburg? So in that context, that's how Russia sees this. So Graham goes on as more things, and he says, and then Trump starts jumping into this to defend Lady Lindsey's honor. He starts yipping at Medvedev. It's like, why are you yipping at Medvedev? Trump has been successfully trolled. The master troll himself has been successfully trolled by Medvedev. And so Medvedev responds to him because Trump goes on this rant about Russia's economy's dead, India's economy's dead. Yeah, here it is.
Let me read the tweet again. If people haven't been paying attention, this actually occurred. It says, this is a Trump truth post, and it says, based on the highly provocative statements of former president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, who is now deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, I have ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in the appropriate regions, just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that. Words are very important if it's cut off now, and can often lead to unintended consequences. That's advice worth taking. I hope this will not be one of those instances.
Should start to take.
Well, but we're talking about unintended consequences. We're talking about nuclear war right now.
Correct. And then he does an interview where he says we're prepared for nuclear war. And, Razorfist was like, well, he had to say, no, he didn't have to say that, Razorfist. You know what preparation for nuclear war is? It was a cartoon in my grandfather's office. And the cartoon said how to prepare for nuclear war. You go over here, you get behind this desk, you put your head between your legs, and you kiss your ass goodbye. That's how you prepare for nuclear war. You're preparing for nuclear war. It's the end of the world if we have nuclear war.
I didn't see Medvedev's reply here. Hold on one second.
I'll get to that in a second. What led to that was Medvedev was reminding Trump when he was talking about dead economies. And Medvedev is interpreting all these threats as threats at regime change in Russia, which Europe has been bragging about. Ukraine has tried to murder Putin twice in just the last 2 months. With drone attacks at his helicopter and other places. And he's like, remember the Walking Dead in America. And is that what you want? Because we still have our dead hand in Russia. What that is referencing is if you did a decapitation strike on Russia's leadership, their dead hand, goes back to Dr. Strangelove, would unleash automatically nuclear weapons on the United States. So that's what Trump was then responding to that. And then Medvedev responded with, where did you send the nuclear submarines? Epstein Island? Medvedev is a great troll. Trump should not be sending nuclear submarines in response to a troll on Twitter, for the love of God.
Now, I don't know if this is real, so everybody take this with a grain of salt. I think this is one of the trolls. Medvedev's response to Trump's repositioning of 2 nuclear submarines. I think the only people who don't know Trump. Okay, I don't agree with this, but this is what it says. Trump should not think that the video archive of his past immoralities is only in the hands of Mossad. That's funny on a few levels. I do not believe Trump is on. I don't think Trump's done anything.
Medvedev is pushing back from Russia on the insane rhetoric coming out of the EU and Lindsey Graham. That's what they're pushing back on.
No.
And so but Trump should not have engaged this at all. And Trump should not be sending nuclear submarines or talking about being prepared for nuclear war. That is not a place where we should be, period.
But I mean, I can steel man the argument. Like, he's got to talk tough and make Russia think he's as crazy as apparently the West thinks Putin is.
Yeah, the problem is what happens when they really think you're crazy. That's how you get to unnecessary conflict and unnecessary war. And I think it's counterproductive at this point. But I think a lot of it's driven by him receiving and accept. He's given honest information. There's people who give him honest information. He just ignores it. He accepts the dishonest information, and it's becoming a problem. I mean, it finally got through to him, transitioning into the Gaza genocide debate, that what's going on in Gaza is not good. That parts of the Israel hard right that Bibi Netanyahu now has to align himself with because of the pending criminal case that led the center and the center left to abandon Bibi's coalition. I mean, they were just marching on the old Temple Mount where the Alaska mosque is, and that leader, the head of national security for the Bibi government, was part of that march, talking about maybe they'd raise the mosque to the ground. People need to understand, like, people always say, hey, Barnes, do you want the Palestinians here? No, I don't. Guess where you think this part of the hard right of Israel plans to send them? They think, expelling them. Mike Davis was cheerleading this over the weekend. Let's expel them. And then he was saying things that sounded like frankly, did sound like genocide. Now, the Mearsheimer's point is he defines genocide as trying to erase someone's national identity. So he thinks the goal is to eliminate the idea of a Palestinian state, and thus he considers it genocide, the Israel attack on Gaza. I do not. I agree with George Samueli, whose view is that genocide is mass murder. It's the intended killing of everybody, or as many of them as you can. And that is not what's happening, in my opinion. What is happening is, according to the leading government members themselves, their goal is to expel them. And their goal is to expel them to Europe and the United States. This
is like, okay, now, and I'll say this, I'm not bringing this up to throw shade on Mike Davis. I think it's a stupid thing to say, period. And this is one of the tweets, level Gaza. It's a real tweet. I screenshot it because I'm having a debate with someone who accused you of throwing shade on Mike. And I'm like, first of all, quote the right tweet when Barnes is saying this is a bad mindset.
And he kept escalating. Like, he said he supported collateral. He said because a majority, his interpretation is that a majority of Gazans support Hamas. Thus, they can be taken out, and that's fine. It's like, no. We've rejected that logic a long time ago, definitely since World War II. Right now, you can make that argument in terms of our firebombing of Dresden, our firebombing of Tokyo, our use of nuclear weapons, still controversial. But since that time, we have agreed that you cannot punish a civilian non-combatant population, even if you think you can't mass starve them, you can't mass expel them, you can't ethnic cleanse them, you can't genocide them because you disagree with who they support politically. That has not been okay. And Mike thinks it is okay. And I just strongly disagree with that.
No, and also I said
all the boomer cons. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, said he was going home to his district. Guess where that was? Israel. Apparently Israel is his district. The boomer cons don't understand what's happening right now. There's a political rebellion inside the right in the United States. You got that lard-ass Randy Fine congressman who said he wouldn't wash his hands after shaking the mighty Bibi Netanyahu's hands. That's how nuts this guy is. He replaced Matt Gaetz in the House. Oh my. You couldn't go from a bigger high to a lower low. But he goes to a freedom conference and gets booed, and he's shocked because younger conservatives want nothing to do with this. They want a different resolution. Now, guess what Trump is proposing? Apparently, Trump is proposing with Witkoff. The pitch to Hamas is you lay down your arms, and the U.S. will send U.S. troops to Gaza. The U.S. will be temporarily in control of Gaza. No, and no. Bad idea all the way across the board.
I'm just to flesh out. First of all, everybody who's hating on Barnes in the chat, tough noogies. If you have very sensitive ears, put on earmuffs and still absorb the information. I say to Mike, like, people saying this thing, let's just assume you don't believe it. it's stupid to engage in rhetoric that you don't believe in. Okay, so that's the easy one. Assume you do believe it. I do not believe in it for the very reasons that I'll elucidate now. Even if you do sincerely believe level all of Gaza, what do you think happens after that? Now, in Canada, they're talking about taking in Gazan refugees. What do you think happens when the West takes it? Because the Arab nations, the Muslim nations, are not taking them in for reasons that, if you understand history, you know very well.
Right.
So you want someone promoting leveling of a territory that produces groups of people that even the neighboring Muslim countries don't want, so that you can then have a political pressure to take them in to Canada and America, the same way Merkel opened up the German borders to Syria. And even if you believe it, that's what you're promoting by way of policy. Don't say it out loud. Also, don't believe it because you're an idiot. I think what would have been better?
I mean, it's what Israel wants. I get it. Israel would like to not have a Palestinian problem.
Well, but then also to stop you there.
That's not good for us.
And to stop you there, if it's what Israel wants, it seems like that's what Netanyahu wants. When people then come out and say, we are now having we're having domestic problems because of this war over in the Middle East and because of this policy from Netanyahu, expect resentment. And I'm not justifying it. It's just the reality.
All right. Yeah. It's just I mean, for pointing out political reality, I get all these people that get really mad, particularly a lot of the boomer cons that really put Israel first. They don't want to admit that's what they do, but it is what they do. I mean, like when I put up a poll on our board is very much, there's more people that would like a divorce from Israel than there are Israel first people. But most of them are geopolitical realists like Mearsheimer. And that was, if it's in our interest to support Israel, support Israel. Do I think Israel should have nuclear weapons rather than Hamas? Yes. Right. That's an example. On the other hand, does that mean I support starvation in Gaza? No. Does that mean I support leveling Gaza? No. Does that mean I think we should immigrate all the Palestinians here? No. So there's a difference, and Trump is losing the balance. Bibi has long lost the balance. Once he got forced into a coalition with a hard right, Bibi used to be better at this tactically. He has lost that balance because he loses the hard right, he loses power, he goes to prison. End of story. So that's why he's got no choice but to give it. And these hard right people are crazy. Just listen to some of their statements. They bragged about the possibility of a Gaza genocide. They bragged about starving them all out. They said the only reason they call them Palestinians grasshoppers and have all kinds of horrendous language. And why you choose now of all the times, right? You've got almost all the world wanting to recognize a Palestinian state now. And what does the hard right choose to do? Let's march on Al-Aqsa Mosque and hint at maybe we'll raise it someday to re-raise the temple. I mean, these people have lost the script entirely. Trump's got to pull him. He can't get further involved in Ukraine. Can't get further involved in Israel's problems. We got to get out of this. Otherwise, he jeopardizes the good successes he's had so far.
We're going to move on from this because I think it's a crowd pleaser for no one. Faye 22 PHS 2002 says, I am not address words by Brantham. Amazing. We are women. We are warriors of steel. Women is not something no man will ever feel. Woman is not a skill that a man can own. Woman, what's my problem with my fat fingers here? Come on, get this out of here. Is a word, and it's ours alone. It's very nice, actually. I didn't realize that was a poem as I'm reading it. Clank, clank, I'm tank. Those subs are always there, just reminding them. Possibly, but Trump accused the Dems of almost destroying America while he is sending nuke subs to Russia. He is I don't think he believes it, but I think he thinks there's utility in saying it.
And there isn't. And that's why I think there always has to be from his base whenever he's going AWOL or risk
pushback.
Yeah, you've got to push back loud and clear, because if you don't, his mistakes will compound.
Dead hand switch. Texas Grown says dead hand switch allows the whole network to receive their signals to activate preset coordinates. It's like a remote activation. It's mutually assured destruction is what it is. Let me do one other thing here, Robert, because I want to
completely. So there's no such thing as winning nuclear war. But here's the scary thing: there's people in NATO that believe there is. That you even saw some of these big Ukrainian advocates saying, "Oh, this is great," cheering on what Trump was doing, saying that Russia is a paper tiger nuclear wise. It's like, no, you don't want to get anywhere near that. You should. It's a very good job of staying away from it in his first term. I don't know why he's losing the script here in his second term.
You got some people who believe that a small nuclear war might actually be good for the environment. Here we got what are the odds that this is from Gray 101 that President Netanyahu will give permission for the Trump DOJ to prosecute any wealthy Epstein clients? We got it. I'll check that link out in a second from LKD. Gray 101 says, how rich do Americans have to be to be too big to jail like Epstein trafficking clients. This will be the segue to get into the Epstein stuff. What are the odds Trump's wars on behalf of Israel or Ukraine heat up before the U.S. midterms? That's from Grey 101 is on it. Monsieur Frahek, pensez-vous qu'il est probable que la guerre impopulaire du gouvernement israélien provoque une haine antisémite? Is it possible that the unpopular wars of Israel are going to provoke anti-Semitic hate? Don't call it anti-Semitic. It's certainly anti-Israel. Certainly.
Yeah. Now we'll get into the Justice Department. We talked way back about there's legitimate grounds to be concerned about Jewish student safety in the way aspects of the Palestinian protest movement took on anti-Semitic tropes and tones, but emphasized there needed to be a strict line between that and speech, between that and anti-Israeli beliefs, because those are two different things. There's tons. I mean, just look at New York City. Jewish voters in New York City, who's their favorite candidate for mayor right now?
Norman Mamdani. He's got the support of, I think,
who said globalize the Intifada. That's who the Jewish voters in New York are voting for.
And Bernie Sanders, the commie that he is, supports him. I think it's Jerry Nadler as well. Jerry Nadler. I'm pretty sure it's Jerry Nadler. It's another prominent Jewish politician.
If you want to know who Randy Fine is, Randy Fine makes Gerald Nadler look like he's in shape. And that's who Randy Fine is, by the way.
Robert, I'm going to get to the...
Speaking of, we got the Epstein things. We got Russiagate. We got the You briefly, on the hate speech, I got to give it to Glenn Greenwald. I didn't think that's what the Trump administration was aiming for, was a hate speech code. He was right. I was wrong. What's being implemented as part of the deal is a speech it's not in the official correspondence or the official settlement agreement. It's in the correspondence, and it's how it's being implemented. And what they're saying basically is we're doing a great job of getting rid of DEI, but we're carving out an exception. We're carving out an exception for Israel. And it's Israel specific more than it's Jewish specific. Which bothered me. They're equating the two as if they're indistinguishable, as if there's no difference between being Jewish and being Israel, being Jewish and being Zionist. So you could saying, for example, that Israel is a colonizing country can get you kicked out of the Ivy League, right? That's a problem. That should never have happened. But Greenwald is right. What has happened is this whole administration cares more about Israel than it does about America at times. It's getting really frustrating in a wide range of contexts because it keeps showing up, whether it's the Epstein docs, whether it's Gaza, whether it's Iran, whether it's how we're treating our DEI policy, what's getting prioritized in immigration, all of these things. Like Stephen Miller attacked Glenn Greenwald this week. Miller was wrong. Greenwald was right. I mean, we've targeted people for deportation based on their anti-Israeli politics, not based on anything they've ever said against America. So Miller just lied about that. I get it. Miller's a huge Israeli hawk, huge pro-Israeli guy that goes all the way back. You can find some very unpleasant things he has said in the past. Let's put it that way. He sounds like a hard right Israeli if you go back and look at Stephen Miller's long history. His strength has always been in trade and immigration, not foreign policy otherwise. But Greenwald was right. And we're creating hate speech. We're even, as Cernovich laid out, we're creating a DEI special program if you're Israeli or if you're pro-Israel. It's like, well, what are we doing? We got all this great work getting rid of all this DEI nonsense, getting rid of this speech codes, getting rid of the discrimination in hiring faculty, hiring administration, admitting students. And now we're carving out this massive exception. We're letting the ADL write these things. The ADL, been an anti-Trump, anti-right group for forever. Why are we letting the ADL do any of this nonsense? They've been busy they libel more people than anybody on the planet. The Anti-Defamation League. All they do is defame and defame and defame. So this is disturbing. It's unsettling. It's an area of the Trump administration that, in my view, is not going well. It's delivering for donors like Miriam Adelson, who's spending lots of money to try to take out Thomas Massie as we speak. But it's not serving the interest of the voters or the people who elected it. So we should have no DEI for anybody, no discrimination for anybody, no hate speech codes for anybody. Is my view.
Well, and I'll bring up Buffalo Betsy from our locals community and says, and this inevitably breeds resentment for Israel, the very thing they claim to want to root out. This is so counterproductive. That's what I want everyone to understand. When it's not because I'm Jewish that people are going to think I have to be blindly supportive of Israel. I'm just strategically, if your goal is not to foment, and people are going to say anti-Semitism has existed for thousands of years, it's never going away. All right, if that's true, maybe you don't want to do things that are actually going to exacerbate that sentiment. And if you want people to support Israel, don't turn them against it by doing what Barnes is righteously observing in American politics.
And defend Israel on the merits. I mean, Elon Hookower, a member who has his own Substack, does a fantastic job of it on a regular basis with documented citations. With he cites independent sources, a range of sources. He'll cover both sides of the argument. He has a very Israeli supportive perspective, but you can rely on him getting honest. That's what you want more of, not suppression, not censorship, not speech codes, not DEI programs, none of this. But speaking of the other guy that they're covering for, connected, unfortunately, to Israel and Mossad, the Epstein case is the case that won't go away, despite Trump's efforts otherwise.
So the update here is that Ghislaine Maxwell is petitioning to the Supreme Court to overturn her conviction. The argument, people call me names. The argument is not untenable. Her argument is that she was included in I screen grabbed the phraseology, but that she was included or ought to have been included or was presumably included in the non-prosecution agreement, which included unindicted co-conspirators, both known or unknown. The subsidiary argument is that the District of New York could prosecute her despite the NPA out of Florida, which also to me makes no sense because I think, unless I'm mistaken, Robert, you're still dealing with a federal entity, a federal prosecution. It's just instead of it being out the feds in Florida, it's the feds out in New York, right?
Well, it's an old scam that the Justice Department pulls. So what the Justice Department will do in a typical plea agreement is but normally it's explicitly in the plea agreement. It wasn't in this one, which is, I think, why Ghislaine Maxwell has an above average argument. Now, I don't believe the Supreme Court's going to take it because of who she is. Mm-hmm. There is a clear big circuit split on this. So here's the scam the U.S. government runs. They cut a plea deal with you. Then all of a sudden you might yourself get prosecuted in another district. And you're like, hold on a second, I just did the deal. They're like, oh, that was only that district that did the deal.
But let me stop you there. The plea deal is for federal crimes. It's not for state crimes.
And it's the United States government,
okay,
right? But they pretend somehow that they're limited to their district, which is complete garbage. But they've been getting away. But normally they explicitly put this in the plea deal, right? So you're on notice. By the way, this deal does not bind any other U.S. attorney's office in the country.
A federal U.S. attorney's office. Because when I'm reading through this, I'm like, oh, so she got the non-prosecution was in Florida for federal crimes. How then does the New York the Southern District say, well, now we're going to prosecute you, but it's the federal district, but out of New York? Then you don't have a non-prosecution agreement.
Exactly correct. That's her point. Now, a majority of federal circuits have said that when the government doesn't explicitly put into the agreement that that this only binds that district, that it binds all U.S. districts,
okay,
which makes sense to me, of course. Two circuits, the Second Circuit and the Seventh Circuit, have said, nah, they have to explicitly say that it binds everybody or it doesn't bind anybody other than that district. So where did they prosecute her? Second Circuit, Southern District of New York. So her issue is most of the circuits have agreed that they can't violate the plea deal. And for those that don't know the background, Epstein did a plea deal with the federal government that said no, none of his co-conspirators would ever get prosecuted for anything that Ghislaine Maxwell then was subsequently prosecuted for.
And by the way, it said unindicted co-conspirators, both known and unknown. So it wasn't, and then because the argument that it didn't name her.
Deal in the history of plea deals. And I'm sure it's a coincidence that the former U.S. attorney at the time, later Labor Secretary Alex Acosta, said that he had to do it because Epstein was an intelligence asset. Now, people are now saying, no, he never said that, whatever. So I think she's right on the merits legally. Again, I argued for her bail. I argued for Epstein's bail. I argued for a whole bunch of P. Diddy's bail. I argued for people I utterly despise as human beings because I believe in the Constitution. The law first, people, then after that, you worry about who the person is. But as the meme is, sipping for the Constitution for a quarter century. That is the only part. That's the only thing I ever sipped for. So so I think she's right. But put it this way: the Supreme Court does take it. There's going to be a lot of people wondering. Maybe Robert, because there was a John Roberts that used to fly on the plane that I don't believe is this Chief Justice John Roberts. But by golly, if they take the case, people get start saying,
Well, I actually forgot.
It might end up going full Candace.
They are petitioning. Is it a petition for cert or?
Yeah, petition. Supreme Court hasn't taken it yet. Now, in the middle of all this, after she talks to the feds, talks to Todd Blanche in particular, not any feds, Trump's former attorney, private counsel, now now the deputy attorney general, who was pushing the cover up, as we now know, because he put it out in the tweet that he was, but Bongino couldn't wait to sign that document. That's why Bongino never signed it and almost quit over it. Okay, sure. That's who Blanche is, the old school corporate defense lawyer. He goes down there and talks to her. We don't know what happened, what was said. We know some documents were exchanged. And all of a sudden, in the overnight, she gets moved. She gets moved to a work camp in Texas. And so for those that don't know, basically that is your best place to be. There, if you're in federal custody, you're begging to be sent to a work camp because you don't do a lot of work there. I've heard Owen Schroyer talked about it loosely, indirectly, talked about all the stories that were out there. By the way, what is Owen agitated about? Owen was wrongfully swatted. The Bondi DOJ said they were going to do something about it, and they've completely dropped the ball and done nothing about it. So I'm going to keep calling out pay for play Pam Bondi until we start seeing some meaningful action. But you go to these places, you can order food in, right? I mean, all kinds of crazy things happen at these places. You can literally walk out typically if you wanted to. I mean, it's that low level of security. You have no threat from there's nobody violent in the whole facility. So this is what the prisoners beg for. There was zero chance she was ever going to get it. So this was clearly a quid pro quo. You tell a story a certain way, and you at a minimum, we're going to send you to a low-level work camp. Mm-hmm. Usually they only send you there when they're planning on commuting your sentence or releasing you within a year, by the way. And my take on it all along was Ghislaine played her cards well. So it was, hey, look, I can exonerate Trump. And if you get me what I want, I'll exonerate him. You don't give me what I want, I'll incriminate him. It's up to you. And so she learned how to play her. This is my interpretation, speculation as it is, but it's based on studying her for many, many years, and her father as well, and Epstein as well. So I think she's played her cards right, and we'll see if it leads to commutation. Trump is even talking about pardoning P. Diddy in the middle of all this, which is doubly insane. I mean, he's not going to serve much time anyway, so why sign your name on P? You combine P. Diddy and Epstein, they're going to have a whole different perception of Trump going forward. There's going to be a ton of people that are going to think he was neck deep in all of this stuff. I don't think he was, but that's what people are going to believe if things aren't handled correctly vis-a-vis Ghislaine Maxwell, the Epstein files and Epstein. And then we hear out that he told now, you got to take this with a grain of salt. I've been wanting the FOIA guy fired for forever. The guy running FOIA for the FBI is a corrupt hack. They finally fired him. I suspect he's the source of this. Mm-hmm. But he came. Somehow we get after he gets fired, suddenly a story comes out that says Trump wanted his name removed from 100,000 documents, Epstein documents. I don't know if that's the case, but although this is making Trump look bad, this is what we said at the time. You're far better off releasing everything than playing this drip, 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 drip game.
I say strategically, the way it's played out has certainly made the left clamor for the release of all the documents. So if that was the troll, well done. But yes, the opaqueness and the questionable nature of a lot of this is making people have legit, at least substantiated conspiracy theories. But I wanted to bring this up. I want to highlight one thing here. This is why you cannot use ChatGPT. It says, current location, Ghislaine Maxwell is incarcerated in the federal facility in Tallahassee. And I said, I think that's wrong. I said, I think she was moved to Texas. No, you're absolutely right to raise. That was confusion at one point. ChatGPT is crap. Now, this is not the sponsor of tonight's show, but they are a sponsor of the channel.
His innovation is just, he's so good at innovation. Grok is already, you see, you can you can make live memes now.
The gimmick of that is going to move on. Venice.ai got it right. Which prison is Maxwell in? She was he's been moved from federal prison to Bryan, Texas. No, but it's like ChatGPT, it's useless. And then you tell it something, you're like, oh, thank you for the confusion. Dude, you just gave me a wrong answer. I knew the right answer. It's only useful if you know the right answer already.
Now, by the way, one thing she can't do is at that facility, no recording is allowed. So no one can interview her with any recorded format.
It's a double win. Yeah. Robert, let me bring up a bunch of the Humble rants because I don't want to fall. Look at that serious face right there. Christians are the Mormons of Judaism. snake coil entertainment. I don't know what that means. I'm going to think about that for a bit. Doesn't matter the president. They're all dog walked by Israel. Last one that really pushed back against Intel influence suffered an unfortunate head explosion. That's Bill Dozer, 74. ADL, snake coil. Okay. The ADL literally supports terrorism. Their list of hate symbols lists anti-Antifa imagery. Their list of hate symbols literally includes the number 18 and 13, both of which are lucky in Judaism. Snake Coil Entertainment says, Israel is right to genocide Gaza after what the Palestinians did on 10/7, but the U.S. has no business aiding Israel. If you believe that, I mean, you're going to welcome in something that you might not want policy-wise. But I'm not anti-Israel Jew. I'm anti-Israel getting U.S. aid and anti-laws that limit free speech, like the anti-Semitism laws. T1990, perfect example. This is a segment Lotus Eaters did a while back talking about retirement in South Carolina, where the residents were throwing toga parties. I don't know what that is. This is a problem. Okay. Went down. Mearsheimer used the definition from the Genocide Convention, which is very broad.
Yes, but the Genocide Convention doesn't say national identity in the way that he's interpreting it. Yeah, I disagree with him. I'm not saying his argument is in bad faith, because there's a good faith argument on his side of the aisle, no question. But I was curious because they're not mass murdering people. If they wanted to mass murder them, they already would have. They haven't.
Well, people are going to tell you that tens of thousands is mass murder. Now, is it? And then they're also going to tell you that
we should always. This is George Samueli's argument. Historically, genocide is the reserved for mass murdering everybody. Now, if you interpret as mass murdering an identity, that's how I interpreted Mearsheimer to say they're trying to mass murder their national identity.
Well, or mass.
He's probably got an argument, but I don't interpret the Genocide Convention that way.
Well, or mass displacement, which is specifically one of the definitions.
And that's more like ethnic cleansing to me.
And incidentally, to Steelman, some people are going to say, well, they can't do it traditional genocide, so they have to make it look like it's part of a battle. I appreciate all these arguments. That's why I hate these discussions. Randy Fine can eat a bag of DICKSs. That fat FUCKN planet. I don't know who Randy Fine is offhand. I'm going to have to go look.
Congressman from Northern Florida replaced Matt Gaetz, who said that after he shook Bibi's hand, he didn't wash it for days because he wanted to shake his kids' hands with the honor of shaking Bibi's hand.
As you engage,
he's out there saying things like Mike Davis, saying, "Yeah, let's level them. Yeah, let's hammer them. Yeah." I mean, the stuff that's like, if you're on the Israeli side, you don't want to be making this argument. You want to be making the argument that the reason for the starvation or any hunger issues is Hamas holding hostages, Hamas making it difficult to get food in. That's the argument you want to make. You don't want people like Randy Fine, people like the hard right with Israel, these other people saying, "Yeah, let's murder them. Let's murder them." I mean, that's the problem.
Let me read. Biltong says, Biltong is one of the highest protein snacks in the world, boasting nearly 50% protein packed with B12, creatine, iron, zinc, and more. Visit BiltongUSA.com. Use code BARNES for 10% off. It's flipping delicious, everybody. Get it. You will not regret it. Free Jelaine, that is from Snake Hole Entertainment. Text Master says, Dustin Burrows, the head of the Texas House, is controlled by the Democrats. He had a quorum last Wednesday to call a vote on redistricting, refused to do it. He allowed the Democrats to run Rhino. Robert, yep. I will never understand the redistricting stuff. It always seems to me it's the same bloody fight every single time. Why can't they resolve the redistricting issues? What is the redistricting case for tonight?
So the big Supreme Court one. So you got what's going on in Texas where they're trying to redistrict and the Democrats fled the state so that they have no quorum in the House, so they can't get it through. It's an inside scam because there's corrupt members of the Texas Republican establishment who are in on it with them, as that poster just posted. California, New York, Illinois are talking about doing their own redistricting. The thing is, they're more restricted. They have more procedural hurdles to go through than does Texas. Texas can just do it right out of the gate. So we'll see. Texas is getting closer to doing it. I thought they would. But we'll see. Attorney General Paxton is running for the U.S. Senate there in Texas, has said he'll find a way to arrest him. Reportedly, they went to Illinois. And, there's another lard ass. That governor of Illinois with old mob ties, if you dig into his family history as to how they got their money and how they got their cash. They think they're a big hotel chain, but if you go dig in further, how all that came about was mob ties in Chicago. So that's why they think they won't be arrested. At the same time, what the Supreme Court, remember the case we discussed where the Supreme Court was looking at the Louisiana district, and they postponed resolution to next year, saying they wanted more briefing. Well, what they did is they asked everybody to submit more briefing on the precise topic of should we have race-based gerrymandering at all? Because what happened in the late 1980s, early 1990s, they cut a deal. where they created race-driven districts, black majority districts, Hispanic majority districts. And what it did was it destroyed the populist base in the South and Southwest, because now it's starting to shift in the Southwest. But what happened was your old populist Democrat used to rely very heavily on black and Latino support, depending on whether it was the South or the Southwest, with working class whites. They created a situation where you had, all white districts and black. They resegregated the districts, basically. And this was done in the name of the Voting Rights Act, which to me never made any sense. It also, I thought, ultimately undermined black political power, because now all of a sudden you just had the symbolic representation of a black congressman, but that black congressman no longer had to really care about his own base because of how the racial politics worked. So I thought it was net bad for everybody involved, for the most part, other than the political establishment that was corrupt, that could now suppress populist instincts across the South and the Southwest. And I thought it never conformed to either the Constitution or the Voting Rights Act. The way that the Supreme Court phrased their instruction for briefing means they're seriously considering getting rid of race-based districts forever. And that would be awesome. We're probably a year away from it occurring. But I mean, now for Democrats, it'd be devastating because they could lose 20 to 25 seats. But what it would be is a massive resurgence of populist voices in the South and the Southwest, which I'm all here for. And it would actually be consistent with the Constitution of the United States, which would be nice.
Robert, I can't believe he said it. There is a reason the first time I shook at Netanyahu's hand, I did not wash it until I could touch the heads of my children. This guy's nuts. But it strikes me as also I'm not the best Jewish practitioner by any means. This strikes me as being fundamentally anti everything that the religion of Judaism is supposed. This is idolatry. I'm fairly certain idolatry is bad in Judaism.
Well, it's like pretending the nation, that the current government of Israel is indistinguishable from the Old Testament Israel, like Mike Johnson was pretending, like Ted Cruz was pretending. It's like, no, hold on. Been a long-standing evangelical Christian, and I draw a distinction between the two. I'm very sympathetic to the plight of Jewish people over the last 2,000 plus years, give or take. And I'm more sympathetic with Israel than I am with the Palestinian cause, because I never side with people who sided with the Nazis. General rule of that rule across the board. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you sided with the Nazis, I distrust you. Just good cardinal logic to have. But at the same time, I don't pretend it's the Israel from. I don't pretend it's David and Solomon are on the throne or something. It's like, where is this craziness come from?
Robert, speaking of never siding with people who have sided with the Nazis, that's a perfect segue into George Soros and the Russiagate, what Russiagate is revealing. And I'm going to say
that was a great transition, because I wasn't even wondering where I was going. I was like, bingo, that's right. George Soros sided with the Nazis. Another reason why I dislike that guy.
So the latest news, again, it's like, Mike Benz reacting to Ryan Ruth is like, okay, all of us were paying attention to this, including Benz, and we knew this from the beginning. Now at least we're getting some sort of evidence to confirm it. We all knew that Russiagate was a judicial coup, and I think it was a violent one at that, just not with the traditional means of violence. Tulsi Gabbard has now come out. I don't know who's declassifying this, but it's become declassified, a number of the Russiagate documents. Kash Patel says he came across a burner bag in an undisclosed room in the J. Edgar Hoover FBI building. It was set to be burnt, destroyed, whatever, and wasn't for whatever the reason.
We know why. It was what we talked about at the time of Mar-a-Lago.
This is fantastic. I'm not stealing your wisdom on this. You gotta tell people.
Well, for those that weren't here, we said Mar-a-Lago was done in order to get the documents they thought Trump had exposing their Russiagate crimes. And then when they opened the safe was empty. So I don't know whether Trump even ever had it, but they panicked. So they put all those documents in the burn bag, ready to light it on fire and shred it all. And then they're like, oh, we have no idea what he's got. And so if we shred anything, that will be its own act of criminality. So we're just going to have to leave it in the burn bag, stick it behind the desk. And their only mistake was they put it behind Cash's desk instead of Pam Bondi's. Behind Pam Bondi's, remember what they thought?
So it has been declassified, and it effectively confirms that what we all knew. You can tear into Mark Elias, Perkins Coie, manufacturing the Steele dossier using foreign assets to make up opposition research, which was fabricated lies, which they then, through their lawyer, Michael Sussman, gave to the FBI, who then leaked it to Yahoo News, who then wrote an article on it so that the FBI could go to a secret FISA court and say, look at the Russian ties here, and we need a secret renewal of the Carter Page spy warrant. Okay. I don't think we knew, although we said it. Now we've got the evidence. George Soros, it's not Open Borders. What's the name of the Open Society? Open Society. That they were involved financially, directionally. I don't know. What was Soros's alleged, although it's now been sort of confirmed, his ties to this? He was financing this opposition research.
It was one of his top allies was coordinating with Hillary Clinton to make sure that Russiagate happened. That Russiagate was going to be they said their goal is to vilify and demonize Putin and Trump to cover for Hillary's scandals and create a basis to go after both Trump and Putin but Trump in particular. And they said the FBI can help pour oil on the fire, and that it incriminated high-ranking Soros NGO executives as well as high-ranking members of Hillary Clinton's campaign. And everything about it screamed this from the day one. Now, their ultimate goal, when you talk about the the consequences of this, it has been a lot of dead, I think, Ukrainians, not Russians, despite what President Trump said. Either way, it's a lot of dead bodies. That a lot of death happened because of this. That war doesn't happen, but for Russiagate occurring, because Trump with Flynn was going to create détente with Russia. I don't know why he's not trying to do it right now, but that's another story for another day. Either way, that is what would have happened in 2017. So this covered up Spygate, it covered up Emailgate, because it was the excuse for Hillary Clinton's emails and getting buried. That remember, it was Russian disinformation as to how many emails she had, and it was classified and all that. They also covered up the DNC email scandals of Hillary Clinton. So all of those Hillary Clinton and all the Clinton Foundation scandals, all that gets covered up as Russian disinformation. Joe Biden's corruption gets covered up as Russian disinformation. So it became a whole cover scheme to cover all of the Democratic Party's corruption and to justify spying on President Trump during his campaign, then spying on him during the transition, then being a coup on his policies towards Russia in particular, while smearing him throughout his first term of his presidency. So I was on with Sky News in Australia, and I said it's Watergate on steroids times 10.
Do you know who Leonard Bernardo is?
That's the George Soros high-ranking executive.
Okay, I'm just trying to see, again, people, if you don't want, if you like Israel and you like Jews, you don't want Soros selling the name of all Jews across the world, prominent men like this.
Soros is anti-Israel and aligned with the Nazis. So.
Yeah, is Leonard Bernardo Jewish, is what I'm wondering.
I think that sounds very Italian.
That's what I'm thinking. Bernardo, thank you for the clarification. There's no confirmed. The chat will know. The bottom line, I'm just going to read this here because this is from the tweet that says, this is John Solomon. Says the smoking gun evidence inside Durham's annex. If it's authenticated by further investigation, it means liberal mega donor George Soros' team knew the whole Clinton plan for Russiagate hoax 4 days before FBI opened up a probe, and so did Obama, Brendan Comey. Yeah. By the way.
And it's no surprise. I mean, this for those that don't know, Soros has been staging coups around the world for 30 plus years. Famously, was able to sink for a period of time the British pound. The Ukraine is all of Soros's handiwork going back 30 plus years.
The thought that I just had, cripe, was that. Oh, this was the insurance policy. I mean, this was what Peter Strzok was referring to as the insurance policy.
Correct. Exactly.
Robert, let me get a few more tipped questions.
Well, they didn't realize how many of those people are in each other's pockets, right? You've got these oligarchs, you've got these deep state operators, you've got these cutouts. They all work together with high-ranking government officials to launder information, launder intel, launder money, launder arms, launder humans. That's how the whole scam works. That's what the deep state is and what it means. It's beyond the reach of government officials. It necessarily includes them, but isn't limited to them.
We need to get those plushies on the market.
Oh, yeah, definitely got to get those plushies. Those are great.
Does President Trump have any animus against the Amish, or is having his DOJ prosecute them just favored by Trump lobbyists? It says Gray 101.
What is I have heard from Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins, who says she wants to inquire, so I'm hopeful that something moves in that direction. But pay for play Pam is very simple. If you want to get attention, you need to have the right political connections, and the more corrupt, the better. That was her reputation as Attorney General of Florida. And that's what she's doing to Trump's Justice Department. She's doing it systematically, doing it to the Antitrust Division, doing it to the part that's supposed to handle certain aspects of civil rights in terms of these like crazy Israeli policies. That's coming from her. She went out of her way. There was some like little kerfuffle at Florida State. She got the feds involved. The Attorney General is coming about somebody getting into a pushing fight in a gym, and the U.S. Attorney General is involved. Well, she can't find the Epstein files. Well, she can't prosecute anybody related to lawfare. Can't prosecute anybody related to J6. Can't prosecute anybody related to Russiagate. I mean, it's embarrassing.
Let me read these two. These are on point, Robert. Barnes, months ago you were speculating about whether or not Trump had made a deal with the deep state. The obvious answer is yes, says Tim Adderholt. Buffalo Betsy says, I'm telling you, I take no issue with a Jewish person or citizen of Israel, but I am effing not okay. I'm angry about our support for what's happening there. I really like Mike Davis, and I'm disappointed he said that. I spent too much time arguing with some Israel zealot on that very post of Barnes. It shouldn't be controversial to not want civilians and kids to die or starve for sake.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, it's because the hard right took over, and Trump is. There's no winning getting yourself further in depth, further buried there. Just put pressure on Bibi to do what needs to be done, and it will wrap it up. It's that simple. That's the pressure point. It's not Hamas. There's plenty of pressure coming on Hamas already from the Saudis, from the Turks. From others, they're going to start putting a lot of pressure on them. Iran doesn't want anything to do with them anymore, so on and so forth. So but we'll see. Hopefully, the President Trump doesn't get trolled into nuclear war or anything other craziness this week. But we still have plenty of fun. Now, speaking of briefly on a related topic, Candace Owens was on with Tucker Carlson discussing her Macron case. I was on with Dr. Drew and on with Alex Jones this past week. Giving my, just further explanation of what we said, we talked about on Sunday, why I didn't think she stood a chance. Other people think she does stand a chance. I haven't changed my opinion on that at all. But two things of interest. Tucker Carlson suggested that Nick Fuentes is a Fed. Somebody's been saying that for years.
I take that accusation seriously and would not make it. I made it once as a joke and I felt immediately bad, but Fuentes was one of the ones who was up there being very vocal on Jan 6. And I don't think...
so much so Democrats included him in the impeachment video of President Trump. And yet magically he never gets criminally prosecuted.
He said he got his bank account frozen, was put on the Quad S. I think he said that, but...
He said versions of that in the past. I don't believe him for a second. Now, what he's referring to is he got a huge donation from a Jew hater out of France that because it was an international transfer, the guy dies and this guy was like an obsessive, like, Daily Stormer kind of true neo-Nazi. But I agree with Tucker on that point. The other point he made was he said that Claire Locke firm, that Dominion firm, the one that's representing the Macrons, suing Candace, is a real nasty firm. And he didn't like him and so forth. I was like, I remember that same law firm being on a Fox News TV show trying to undermine the Covington kids cases. And who was it that was platforming that law firm? Oh, it would be the one and only Tucker Carlson. I have to mention that to Tucker someday. Still waiting for that apology in the mail there, dear Tucker. But those points are interesting. Candace's other points, I think she connects psychoanalysis to the same big Jew conspiracy, whatever.
She's a hammer looking.
She's batshit insane. She's gone full Kanye. She's totally nuts. She belongs in the nut house. She needs one of those special jackets that we gave Lynn Wood a few years ago.
Robert, look, okay. I'm going to preface this. It's not true. Someone sent it to me while we were live, and it's not. It has yet to be substantiated, and apparently it's false. Amuse tweeted out an update. Yeah. They're now saying they didn't drop the lawsuit.
In fact, they're bringing cyberbullying cases against the journalist who started all this.
So
that's outside the statute of limitations. But I was also on with Nick Rekieta, who's back. For those people who don't know, he's back to not only covering trials but doing stuff at night. We had a long discussion. He brought up two interesting questions. One is the Supreme Court of the United States has original jurisdiction over cases involving foreign consuls, ambassadors, and ministers. So hypothetically, Candace Owens could try to remove the case to the Supreme Court of the United States. That would be kind of fun if she tried that. It's never been done before, to my knowledge. So all this is unprecedented. The other thing that came up was Does general federal removal jurisdiction apply? It doesn't, because all the defendants have to not be residents of that state. So she couldn't remove it to federal court otherwise. But if she gets some fun, creative lawyers, maybe try to remove it to the Supreme Court of the United States. I'm sure they can't wait to hear that case, right? But that would be a lot of fun. While they're handling Ghislaine Maxwell's Epstein appeal, no less. But we've got other cases they should be handling concerning a bunch of rogue judges, rogue decisions on immigration, rogue decisions on vaccine mandates. But we got some good decisions, too, on Google antitrust, BlackRock antitrust, some pending risky decisions on Trump's tariffs, some good decisions on crypto. So still plenty to cover.
Okay, let me, before we do that, let's take a little brief pause. But while you take a sip, Robert, we're going to go over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. I'm getting my email out to you tonight. Hopefully I can get more info on where to send these photos. I need an address, special packaging. Shout out to email address besides your own so that I can coordinate with 1776. Look at these beautiful photographs. Escape. That is from Andrew Piscadlo. We got, have you been tracking the privacy creep? Real ID, mRNA, Stargate project, TSA biometric overhaul, ICE using facial recognition, Palantir using 30 plus federal agencies, Google, Amazon, Bill Gates, health data tracking, AI surveillance, scanning highways. They're using Trump's popularity to push these highly unpopular lobbyist intel wish list projects. How do we push back? Because there's none happening. Believing this is Trump's will. Robert may have disappeared for a second. Okay, and hold on, we'll do this one up here. We got account. This is from Andrew Piscadlo. The entire reason of Trump's decline in approval is this. When you get into bed with donors, accountability is nowhere to be seen. Voters need to rescue themselves again. This is why we're hot and bothered. And it says, Trump coalition, accountability. More, please. Robert, what's the antitrust Google BlackRock?
Oh, I mean, those are both great big winnings. So remember, we discussed the Google case that when they won. Remember Epic Games and Fortnite? Yep. So they went up to the Ninth Circuit. Ninth Circuit affirmed the whole thing. So Google is properly screwed. So big win, because it not only applies to Fortnite and Epic Games, but everything Google was doing with their Play Store was found to violate antitrust rules, and that Google systematically was violating antitrust rules. And now this has been affirmed by the entire Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So they can try to take it to Supreme Court. Supreme Court's not going to take it. Is my preview. So what that means is massive antitrust win against Google. And then Attorney General Paxton uncovered this incredible scandal involving BlackRock and some of the biggest Wall Street funds in the country, in the world. BlackRock and a bunch of them, in the name of being pro-environment, were buying up coal manufacturers, coal producers, and suppressing the amount of coal they produced because they want to protect the environment, but actually jacking up all the prices for your utilities and your electric bills. He figured it out. Great, he'd make a great senator, Attorney General Paxton.
They were buying shares in these companies and then getting people on the. Were they getting people on the board, or were they just controlling it via?
They had enough of a controlling interest that they could suppress coal production, and not only that, they were also lying to people, saying they weren't doing ESG. This environmental DEI for stock market.
Environmental social governance, I think, is what it's the acronym.
Exactly. It's like Greta, what's her name? Kind of running your policy. By the way, they had her doing a version of the who's the actress that just did the Gene commercial?
Sydney Sweeney.
So, by the way, she shoots really good. She's a really good shooter. You see that? She's gonna be like a true American icon. She's like boom, 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 boom. There's this. She shoots almost as well as Alex Jones. That's the only person that's been around that can really knows how to handle a weapon. I just like the sound of it. It's like that's all. I can't shoot well at all. But they had a version of Greta that Greta has extra genes, if you know what I mean. So so he exposed it all. Sues under antitrust law, wins, or at least gets past the motion to dismiss stage, which is massive. So we're exposing these corrupt operations and these big antitrust monopolists is critical, and it gets into where they've been covering up. Unfortunately, the Trump administration got caught. Not Trump, Pam Bondi, pay for play Bondi, interfered in an antitrust investigation involving with various corrupt actors. And they did sweetheart sleazy deals behind the scenes. And at the same time, they got rid of a really good employee at the FDA, a really good somebody that really understood how to take apart the corruption in our public health attachment, because Rick Santorum appears to be a lobbyist for him. And Laura Loomer, who probably was getting paid under the table, wouldn't surprise me. We'll see what she has to say about it. But they basically demonized this guy and drove him out when he was exposing this big drug company that was badly damaging people, was killing people, harming people across the board, to try to get that drug back into being fast-tracked again. So we have good successes on Google and BlackRock, and we've got some setbacks that happen because there's too much influence by the wrong actors like Laura Loomer and pay-for-play Pam Bondi.
Before we get into the Laura Loomer, because I'm curious about that one, Robert, let me bring it up because everybody's going to want to see this. Make sure the volume is not too high. This is Sydney Sweeney. Very, very beautiful smile.
Hey, eyes up here.
Now, Robert,
she's got to be the hottest chick in America.
I'm a married man, but I can agree from the symmetrical perspective of having a healthy physique and face. Yes,
and a great shoot. I mean, you don't have to worry about. You don't have to know how to shoot the gun. You can just send her out there. She'll take care of anybody that shouldn't be present.
And apparently, she's a registered Republican as of 2024. And during our up and coming event in Chattanooga, I'm going to be hitting the range. I'm going to get down there early and hit the range with Ginger Ninja. Robert, what's up with Laura Loomer? I haven't heard this story, and it's not for lack of looking into it. What's the scandal that's going to get me in trouble?
Vinay Prasad was was put in the FDA, and he's a very sort of eclectic, almost you could say on the spectrum kind of personality, politically across the board. Doesn't come from the left or right. But really has been opposed to the corrupt health establishment brought in by Kennedy to make major reforms. One of the companies he was exposing, I think it's Sarepta, something like that, is a company that is under major investigation for literally killing people and causing severe problems. He started to expose this. They started a massive lobbying campaign against him, using high-ranking people in Bondi's office, using Santorum, the former senator, who's now a lobbyist. That's what all these guys become, as it appears to me, and Laura Loomer to run hit pieces on him. Say he's really a Democrat in disguise. And remember, she's been waging constant war on Bobby Kennedy all the way back. So this is, clearly she's on Big Pharma's payroll. That's my interpretation. It's the most reasonable interpretation. You can't rule out the possibility she's an idiot, but I think she's corrupt. That's what I think she is. I've said she's a grifter for a long time now. Ever since she kept doing fake story after fake story. Remember how many fake stories she put out?
Well, she's like, I don't have the problems with Laura Loomer that you have, or the issues, but maybe that's because I don't know as much. Nor do I have the same issues with Candace Owens that you have. But maybe, who knows? I mean, maybe that's because I don't know enough. I do remember she was going hard on RFK and accusing him. I think she was accusing him of piggybacking off Trump to raise money for his own campaign, and the monies were not actually going to anything MAGA or related. She gets things wrong. She gets some things very right. And I think the fact that she's gotten some big things wrong is to her detriment, because I do think she does good work as a journalist. But look, Steelman, you don't have any concrete evidence, Robert. This is your own personal
basically a couple of people in the Maha space exposed it this week. And they went into detail about how she did the hit piece, how she was part of it, who was likely behind it, who was complicit in it. And I'm seeing more examples of this keep popping up, which is a problem. And the Prasad should still be there. The fact that he's gone shouldn't have happened. That it suggests there's certain limits to what Bobby Kennedy can do and not do, who he can protect, who he can't. And it's a bit of a concern because he's still getting a lot of substantive work done. But we're seeing it it's like the EPA fluoride case, similar circumstances where you have Kennedy doing great work, people in the private sector, public interest world doing great work, exposing how dangerous fluoride is, and then Pam Bondi behind the scenes decides to appeal that ruling so fluoride can stay stuck in our water, and now the EPA is considering putting forever chemicals back in our water supply. It's like these are whenever the donors start to take over is when when the voters have got to push back so the donors don't get their way against the voters' interest.
And now I remember, I have to refresh my memory that the attacks were coming before the election. And then people are like, "Good, can we wait until?" I remember people saying, "Can we wait until after the election before we start nuking a coalition that might have been and was very useful, if not necessary, for Trump getting reelected?"
Everything about Loomer screams grifter. I've said that from day one, and I'm not changing my tune on it. So this is more. No one should be crediting her. It comes from Laura Loomer. And do your own independent research, but don't take whatever she says. Assume that there may be a bad faith motive, because more often than not there is.
Robert, let's speaking of bad faith, where we both wholeheartedly agree. Tish James, a woman who, as far as I'm concerned, deserves to be behind bars, along with Adam Schiff, probably for the same type of mortgage fraud that they both allegedly, in my humble opinion, definitively committed. Tish James took to Twitter last week to say, "I'm suing Trump to protect those poor trans kids under 19 who want to permanently genitally mutilate themselves and empower adults and money-grubbing doctors to do the same thing." She joined this lawsuit with how many? 14 other states going after Trump's executive order, which, reading through the lawsuit, the executive order could have been better drafted if I were to have recommended how to draft it. Quite clearly going after treatments for minors that involve things that are basically genital mutilation, puberty blockers, hormone replacement, and surgery. Tish James, ever so loving of the children, wants to let confused, mentally unwell children destroy their lives, is suing Trump to enjoin application of the executive order. And she's a criminal, but belongs in jail. But set that aside. What's the status now? I'm as I'm talking.
I think she's just filed suit, right?
Yeah, there hasn't been any
filing of the suit.
Robert, I mean, we're going to get these. Which state was it that basically ratified the executive orders as relates to transit? Was it Tennessee?
Well, what Tennessee did was approved by the Supreme Court of the United States.
Okay, so I mean, they're suing this. Am I wrong in thinking this is going to get tossed as soon as it gets there, unless they get some rogue activist judges at the lower level?
Correct, right. The judges are the X factor. I mean, they're saying somehow they have jurisdiction, which doesn't make sense to me, to challenge an executive order. I mean, to give an idea of how far they're going, they're trying to prohibit all civil and criminal investigations concerning anybody doing gender-affirming care for minors anywhere in the country. They're trying to get the court to issue a declaration that the law cannot be applied in this way, and an injunction preventing the President of the United States and the Department of Justice from doing any civil or criminal investigation into people who have these doctors that have been literally generally chopping people's genitals off. They don't want there to be any investigation of them, civilly or criminally, as to whether they broke the law or not. So that's how nuts this is. And also, I don't know why Tish isn't already facing a criminal indictment. Given got her dead to rights on mortgage fraud. But, it's Pam Bondi. It's on her desk. So unless somebody paid her to prosecute it, probably not going to happen. But this is a ridiculous case, in my opinion. Should get thrown out, but you never know with the judges these days, as we're dealing with some judges who compared deportation to the slave trade.
Okay, so let's go to the deportation ones. What state was it coming out of? I want to say California.
One was California, and I forget where the other one was, because we got one decision on parole, one decision on
TPS.
TPS, temporary protective status.
I'm fairly certain the TPS was California. That's temporary protective status. It was for Venezuela.
That was the judge who compared it in the long footnote. Said deportation is just the same as the slave trade. The slave trade.
No, but it's what's astonishing is, okay, so there was an activist group, I forget what the name was, doesn't matter, for the benefit of Honduran, Venezuelan, and another group of Nepal, who had been given TPS protection under Biden. This is what I don't understand, which, as far as I understood, was set to expire in July 2025 anyhow.
Yes,
I'm not wrong on this. Okay.
I mean, that's the point of the temporary protective status.
So Kristi Noem comes out and says things which this judge, I'm going to go get her name in a second because it was, I'm fairly certain it was a Biden appointee, said some offensive things, according to the judge, that led her to believe that Noem was imputing or adding racial ethnic animus to the removal or the expiry of the TPS, and basically said, you can't do anything with these people until November when they have a hearing on the merits. But their TPS was set to expire anyhow under Biden because it was issued in 2023. Am I wrong?
Somebody pointed out in the chat, TPS report sounds like Office Space.
Absolutely.
I think those reports are TPS. But, you're absolutely right. So Congress passed a law that gives the Secretary of Health and Human Services, not Secretary, I'm sorry, the Secretary of, I'm blanking now, Secretary No. I used to be called Secretary of the Interior, but now it's Homeland Security. Vaterland Paternity, whatever it is. The old German reference. Well, we would, after 9/11, come up with a German Nazi reference for that department. But putting that aside for the moment, and all this is somebody suffers some horrific event somewhere in the world, natural disaster, something else. We let you come to the United States. Okay, it's supposed to be temporary, and complete discretion to the executive branch. They can revoke it anytime they want, and Congress lays out these protocols that are supposed to limit when they grant it. It's not supposed to be a limit on withholding it. It's supposed to be a limit on granting it, saying you need to acknowledge that all these things exist before you use this power. The judge flipped that on its head and said these limitations on letting people in are actually limitations on removing people.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, the whole law says over and over again, no judicial review, no jurisdiction for review, no judicial review. And I was curious, how the judge get around this? She's like, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to say that the APA gives me review, so I'm going to pretend this other provision doesn't apply, which makes no sense. It's why they've got to strip them of jurisdiction in such a blatant way that they can never pretend otherwise. And then she said there were reason in the long footnote was she was not going to support the slave trade by having these people. They're here. Everybody admits that the conditions on which they're here no longer apply. There's no longer a hurricane in Honduras that led to one person being here. I mean, people don't realize how many people have come here under the guise of temporary relief and then were effectively given permanent de facto citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what is another immigration abuse that took place. Similar to the parole rule, where people were getting paroled and under the Biden administration, promising to come back. Now they're getting arrested and being deported. And the courts are like, no, you can't do that. Because once you give them parole, somehow you can't reverse it. I mean, it's just one crazy rule. And they're doing it how? Class actions. They're giving the states third-party standing. So they're issuing universal injunctions like the Ninth Circuit just did on birthright citizenship, Trump's executive order, under the guise of exactly the loopholes that Alito said we need to shut down, that Roberts didn't have the guts to shut down this last time.
It's amazing. I'll show you the Nicaragua, Nepal, Honduras. The judge says that they're being forced to atone for their race, doesn't want to participate in slave trade. The judge, not for nothing, I didn't actually know. I was not expecting. I went to see where her parents are from, Robert, to see if she was from the same place as Judge Chutkan's parents. It's a Joe Biden appointee, activist on the bench, and making inflammatory arguments as relates to atoning for their race, despite the fact that you have three different races. At least you have two different Honduras, Nepal, and I forget the third one. So
I think the other one's Venezuela.
It's going to be there will not be any overturning this until the November hearing. It's not going to be any irreparable harm from the government's perspective, except for the fact that they can't implement their immigration policy by allowing to terminate the temporary protection status of those who benefited from the temporary protection status.
Despite their efforts, the Supreme Court next year is going to have to do what Alito said they should have done this last time. They are going to have to shut down third-party standing in class actions as tools in this context.
No.
And Congress needs to gut the court's power of this in such a way that nobody could ignore it ever again. You would think this law was plain enough, but the Supreme Court is either going to need to affirm it or Congress is going to have to come back and reform it. And there needs to be some impeachments of somebody somewhere, whether it's Boasberg or somebody, or the courts just don't get the message that they're trying to overturn the Supreme Court as we speak. So that they're just rogue. They're going to continue to be rogue. And it's going to continue to be a problem for the Trump administration and for our country going forward if they can usurp constitutional authority in this very dangerous and precarious way.
The Trump admin, they just did file a complaint against Judge Boasberg, or they filed an additional complaint. How does that process work? Who hears the complaint?
It goes to the judges. So good luck with that going anywhere.
It's unbelievable. Like if it's unbelievable. They're going to obviously protect their own and protect themselves in protecting their own.
Now, I think Senator Schmidt from Missouri recommended it because he's going to use it as a predicate. If the judges don't take remedial action, say we need to start an impeachment investigation because the judiciary cannot police itself. And so that's where I think Senator Schmidt recommended it to Bondi, and then Bondi did it because Bondi doesn't do anything unless powerful people are on the phone with her.
So we got one activist crazy judge. These are both on the temporary protection status issues.
Or the parole issues. Others were just paroled out and allowed to come back for their hearings or getting arrested because they aren't legally here. And the courts are like, no. You got to give them all this extensive due process. Once you paroled them, they're permanently paroled, basically.
Robert, it was Ohio. It was Ohio. Which state was it where these state officers were just sanctioned, put on unpaid administrative leave for having shared immigration as relates to illegals with ICE? Was it?
Don't think it was Ohio. I think it was a different state.
I'll get the state in the state.
Ohio was where the as the Black Reverend from Minneapolis pointed out, it was a little bit of FAFO for the general rule of the wise. If you're going to pick a fight, don't pick a fight with a bunch of younger African American people and use racial.
It was Colorado. Obviously.
But on the flip side, so I get where his point is like, I mean, there's dumb and then there's dumb. But on the other side, it's clear that there was at least some aspect of racial motivation in the beating that those people took. That was clearly also disproportionate and not self-defense either. So, but that may be why Ohio's in your head. I wouldn't imagine Ohio being the state to do that.
No, it was Colorado.
Which was it?
Colorado, the one where
of course it was Camirado.
Yeah, well, that's it. I Jenna Griswold and whatever that AG for that state is. Robert, I mean, you heard the story. These state troopers, they shared information. I thought it was because they were using it was WhatsApp. It was one of the messaging apps to share information with agents who happened to be ICE agents, and they were put on unpaid leave because they recently enacted a law that forbade state agents from cooperating.
That's criminal. That I think they should put the governor and the attorney general under criminal investigation for, because that's now aiding and abetting illegal immigration. That's no longer refusing to be sanctuary cities. That's aiding and abetting criminal activities in the United States, using state power to do so.
That was okay, and it's the attorney general is Phil Weiser. Was his name actually? Oh, Weiser. That is not a name that bears with it an omen. But who would be able to do something about that? That would be DOJ Pam Bondi.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yes, it's pay for play Pam is the only one that would do it. So unless someone's going to pay her to do it, probably not going to show up to do it, or pay her brother or other people around her.
All right, now the other case, which was also one that I know you don't like, this was a bad vax decision, which
horrendous.
Yeah, well, so again, another case where if you don't know the answer already, you might get misled by some reporting. It did not. It basically ratified Jacobson by stating that
it went further than Jacobson.
Yeah, well, that's it. That you didn't even need to know that it was actually safe and effectively, but you needed to have had good reason to think at the time that it was safe.
They would just be good. That's it. So this was the vaccine mandate LA County imposed, went up to the Ninth Circuit. Ninth Circuit originally ruled that they effectively established a factual basis that if this wasn't in fact a vaccine, even under Jacobson, then they have a right to prove that and should go to trial, should go to discovery. The whole en banc Ninth Circuit grabbed the case. They almost never grab cases, and yet the en banc circuit grabs the case. Why do they grab it? They first say it's not moot, even though there's no vaccine mandate currently pending, which in every other context they scream is moot when they want to escape judgment. And then they said, as long as that you can be forced to take a vaccine, as long as the politician at the time thought it might be beneficial to public health, even if it's not a vaccine, it's not safe, and it's not effective. I mean, they took Jacobson to the most extreme eugenics determination that it could go. Jacobson being the foundation of the trilogy of infamy of American law. Jacobson was the sole case cited for Buck v. Bell that authorized forced sterilizations in America and eugenics in America. The number one favorite case of Adolf Hitler. Only had one case to rely on, Buck v. Bell, Jacobson. And then those two decisions led to Korematsu, which said in the name of an emergency, you could take away every right you have. Your right of speech, your right of expression, your right of press, your right of association, your right of religion, your right of self-defense, your right to keep your property, your right to your privacy, your right to trial by jury, your right to due process of law, your right to your property. All of it could be taken away as long as there was an emergency that could justify it. In that case, the Japanese detention camps. The Supreme Court is the one that greenlit that.
It's
And
funny.
now they've gone further. They've said as long as they have a rational basis, they can force you to take whatever they want you to do. Whatever you want to do. That's it. And the rational basis can be, we just think it'll be good for your health. They don't have to prove it'll be good for your health. They don't have to be right that it's good for your health. They can just believe it's good for your health. And as long as they believe it's net good for you, they can take away any right you want. That's what the Ninth Circuit just said. You have no bodily autonomy anymore in America under this decision.
And also they have no liability or even exposure for doing something that might very well hurt you, even if they had no reason to believe that it was no reason.
First people we should have for Nuremberg trials are the judges of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals.
Robert, I'm going to bring this one up on CommiTube. Pelosi's custom colostomy bag says it is well known at the time. It was well known at the time in the tech industry that it was Ukraine that hacked the DNC. I hadn't heard that.
Connections to Ukraine, but there might have been involvement. There was definitely Ukraine deep involvement in Russiagate. That goes all the way back. Ukraine ambassador, Ukraine advisors were all part of it. But everybody kind of knows it wasn't hacked. This was well documented by Ray McGovern and Bill Binney. Bill Binney is the great whistleblower of all time and the great mind on NSA. He helped build most of the NSA of its great surveillance work because he was a true Cold Warrior. And then he saw it was being misapplied and blew the whistle on it. Great American. He identified right away. He said this wasn't hacked. This was a leak. And is it a coincidence Seth Rich got killed a couple of weeks later? I don't think so.
No.
That's another case Pam Blondie can't get right. And they're trying to move the FOIA case from Texas, where they've been forced to disclose a bunch of information they don't want to disclose. They're trying to move it to guess where? The District of Corruption. So they can bury it forever. Pam, pay for play Pam is the worst embarrassment. She may go down as the worst attorney general in our history, and that's saying something, given some of the people we've had as attorney general.
Do you think there's a falling out, or do you think Trump might remove her before? I mean,
I think Trump wants her to do what she's doing, to be blunt about it. I think Trump has shifted in the last three months to focusing on donors rather than voters. And he knows that she's very good at protecting donors.
Let me ask you this, but why would Trump need to focus on donors if he's not running for re-election?
Agreed. It's a total befuddlement to many of his long-time observers and fans and supporters. They don't understand why he's doing this at all.
What do we have next?
Oh, speaking of what Trump I think one of his great successes that he may be putting at risk, his tariffs went before the full Court of International Trade this week.
Okay, you're going to flesh this one out because I want to try to give your voice. Let me give your voice a few seconds to rest, and I'll bring up some of the chats in vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Patty Weber says, Robert, I found Xclear Rescue is a great nose spray when I have the first signs of a cold or virus. Ithaca 37 Cato, shouldn't Trump start to ignore those crazy court rulings? We've been talking about this for a while. Is that gun going off as he touches this? Got form, Sweeney. You should come out to a complete Utah State championship for the USPCSA. Draw all the eyeballs. Hold on a second. What does this say here? Guns don't kill people unless it's. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's because that particular gun has a problem.
It goes off when. Oh, that is in fact okay. Good. I've been watching a few gun shows and I see that.
Crowder was talking about it, and I think Andrew raised it earlier. I think earlier in the week. There was, I think, maybe even a soldier or somebody who died, and it may relate to that gun.
This is Andrew Piscadlo. Says, I didn't know Fuentes was so prominent on Jan Sticks that got included in the impeachment video. Barnes is 1,000% correct, and I'm sold now. Fuentes equals Fed asset. He would be...
the way Tucker described him is he's David Duke. So he hugs you, and by hugging you, it's guilt by association. So let's say you're skeptical of Israel, or you don't agree with their current policies. You get affiliated with him, and all of a sudden you get affiliated with all of his deep anti-Semitism, which there's a long history of. And remember in our debate in front of Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes said he preferred Hamas having nuclear weapons to Israel.
Yeah, but I think he's just
almost no one who thinks that logically.
He says provocative stuff for the sake of saying it, like Destiny, which might be why they alleged.
He was in Charlottesville, never gets prosecuted. He's at January 6th, never gets prosecuted.
Interesting.
You don't have to be a super. There's a long history of this in the country that they put racist on the
film.
Yeah,
well, to discredit the movements, it's Operation COINTELPRO 2.0.
Yeah, correct.
Let me see what we got here. God damn it, Robert Spit. Okay, he's got a tickling throat engaged too. I'm concerned for Barnes' his throat. Don't blow your throat up, bro. We're gonna go over to locals in a few seconds, and then
It's just a cold, so that's all it is.
cold people. Barnes, drink water. Okay.
I've been drinking a lot of water, a lot of tea.
I say drink up.
with
drink-
cinnamon and honey and whiskey, all that.
There you go. I was gonna say hot toddy or a dry martini. Last radiation coming up on Friday. You and your viewers have literally helped me getting through this. The bills are rolling in, and I'm paying them as quickly as I can. Thanks. That is Kimmy Hunt. Let me bring up the Give Send Go.
Give Send Go, Kimmy Guy, GUI, Kimmy Guy on Give Send Go.
Come on, I have it up in the backdrop here somewhere. The avatar is tough to find. Here we go. This is it. Kimmy Guy, everybody. If you can support, link is there. Robert, what did I cut you off before you were going to get into?
Oh, we had Trump's trade.
Oh, yes, that's right. So you have been talking about this for a while, that Trump's use of the tariffs as a not just a economic reprisal, but rather as a political tool of coercion or whatever, could come back to bite him in the butt. It looks crazy. It doesn't look logical. And it looks like it may have empowered some judges to find the argument that they need in order to declare his use of tariffs to be beyond the scope of whatever the law was and what Congress gave to the president by way of delegated power for tariffs. Flesh it out.
Yeah, so the Constitution gives tariff power to Congress. Congress, however, has delegated that power, given the president's unique role in foreign policy, to the president in certain contexts. And what the president used was the International Emergency Act that was passed during the late 1970s to give Jimmy Carter the power to seize various assets related to Iran.
And the argument there is that the economic situation is such a crisis that it warrants these emergency powers.
Right.
Whether or not we like what he's doing, the excuse arguably pretextual and could lead to other abuses from other presidents if we don't like it. But
yeah, what Trump laid out was, he said he considered an international emergency, that we are running huge trade deficits that are hollowing out our manufacturing base and endangering the supply chain for essential goods like medicines, like foods, like other critical minerals that go into all of our production, energy, etc. And on that basis, they announced reciprocal tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why it wasn't uniform was because it was predicated on the trade deficit. And it's the trade deficit with that country that was the basis for the tariff rate and the basis of the negotiation. I felt he had a very strong argument that, given the discretion given to him under the law and under the Constitution and foreign policy, he could get the Court of International Trade to recognize it. First, he lost, but then the whole appellate panel stayed that decision of the lower panel. Now the problem is he just had oral argument in front of them. Over the last several weeks, he's been using tariffs in a different way. He's been using tariffs to punish Brazil over its policies towards Bolsonaro, but also, which I think there should be sanctions on him. I just wouldn't go the tariff route. I would use a separate sanctions route.
So let me stop you there, because I know that Rumble. First of all, there's a Brazilian meat shop not far from me. Easy Meats, best meat on earth. They're Brazilian. They were just basically told me, like, as of August, expect your meat prices to go up a lot. And then they explained why. They weren't even angry. I was like, look, I'm still going to come here. I might buy a little less meat. I don't think I'm going to. But they were supportive of the measure because of what Lula is doing and because of the collective treatment of Bolsonaro. So they were almost supporting the measure, even though it's going to have a negative impact on their business.
Yep.
Flip side, however, are there not better ways of dealing with it? Like, why go with tariffs?
Yeah, I mean, that's why you don't use. You don't want to confuse tariffs from a global economic policy.
Sanctions.
Right, with sanctions. You want sanctions to be sanctions, tariffs to be tariffs. The other reason is constitutionally and legally, Trump really needed to make sure that was the case, because what gives him the legal authority to issue tariffs is that it's related to this economic emergency of a trade deficit. When he went further and said he was going to start issuing tariffs because somebody was involved with BRICS. Then he went even further and said he's going to start issuing tariffs as punishment for buying Russian oil, as in the case of India. So I don't think any of that's within his constitutional or statutory authority. Mm-hmm. And the problem is the court picked up on this. And several judges who I think otherwise would have been for him are like, how? They're like, this is not even related anymore. They're like, how is it even related? So I think the problem is he's probably going to lose his tariff authority. The Court of International Trade is probably going to invalidate his tariffs. And he's going to have to go back and get congressional permission. And it's going to unwind a lot of his very important, I think, valuable tariff policy because he let it be weaponized for political purposes in the same way we weaponized the SWIFT system under Biden that destroyed confidence in the dollar globally, that led to the creation of BRICS in the first place. So I think it's a geopolitical mistake, but I think it could be legally disastrous what has taken place, unfortunately.
And there's no, I mean, to add, Emily Baker, the lawyer who was covering a bunch of the trials, she used the expression "getting the shit back in the horse." I always knew of the toothpaste back in the bottle. There is no way of getting.
You would put it more bluntly.
Yeah, well, I like hers better. It's definitely more visual. There's no way of Trump undoing, there's no way to walk it back now.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to do it. I mean, especially if he escalates. He has said next week, August 8th, he's going to issue massive tariffs on anybody that's still buying Russian oil. I think it's bad economic policy. I think it's bad geopolitics. But putting that aside, that will convince this court. If he does that, that will convince this court he's not tying it to what the law permits, and they'll invalidate all of his tariffs. This is my prediction. I don't want that to happen, but I think it's what will happen.
And then what? Go get congressional approval, which is going to be more difficult. What would be the threshold?
They'll try to limit it to Russia and things like that. That's the problem. They'll say, yeah, you can do it if you're punishing Russia. That's counterproductive long term, and not what Trump's industrial policy is all about.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well,
the last case we have is crypto.
Let's do crypto now, and then we're going to go over to Viva Barnes Law. We'll take the questions with the other tip questions.
Put in the tip questions, $5 or more, and we'll answer all of them. We usually answer more than that anyway, but the only guarantee is we'll answer any $5 question or more over at vivabarneslaw.locals.com.
The crypto. So which case is this now?
This is the NFT conviction. We talked about it when it was the first.
Oh, yes. Okay. So this is the guy. As far as they went after him for fraudulent misrepresentations,
money laundering, wire fraud.
Because what he did, it's actually so it was a company that I don't exactly know what the company did, but whenever they would feature a crypto coin on the front page, the price would go up. And so this guy was internal, knew when they were going to put up what coins on the page. So he would buy it before it would be featured on the website. They would feature it. It would go up. He would sell it. Dude, I mean, he walked a line for $57,000 in profit, that's a lot of money. I don't know what amount of money is worth.
Why did they federally prosecute a guy over $57,000?
I mean, he has to know what he's doing is unethical, and even if it didn't lead to prosecution, it's unethical. Right. I'm certain. I don't know what they could have gone after him for that would have been, more legitimate or more palatable. They went after him for fraud. Did they overturn it or not? They said that
the Second Circuit overturned his conviction. Because I think what the government was really about was they were using this case to liberalize and expand the criminal fraud statutes, the money laundering statutes, the wire fraud statutes, so that they could criminalize you for something they just didn't like, even if it didn't fit the traditional definition of fraud. Fraud is I steal property from you. And he pointed out there was no value in this information for the company. So it wasn't kept confidential. It wasn't kept secret. It had no commercial value to the company. He just made an extra bonus because he knew it was going to be on the front page and a bunch of other people would buy into it. And so unethical, yes. Illegal, criminal, no. And the scary thing was they were trying to take any conduct they don't like, especially in the crypto space, and criminalize it. And they went after this guy because they figured it's only $57,000. He won't be able to defend himself with any degree of sophistication. And we'll make this new scary law we can now use against everybody in the crypto space that we don't like.
And the reason why it wouldn't be insider trading because it's not governed by securities law.
Correct. It's not insider trade. It's none of that. It's just knowing this is going to go up early. And you can imagine this could apply to a lot of people. They criminalize this. People that know information about sports gambling, right? They get ahead of the curve about something. All of a sudden, they could criminalize it and call it fraud. So we have to have objective definitions of property for fraud. They need to limit criminal fraud statutes, or it will be badly abused. This was like the case against Dr. Moore, and he gave patients what they wanted. That was informed consent, and they tried to put him in prison for life over it because they said, "Well, you took these COVID vaccines and you didn't use them." So what? There was no requirement that he use them. but that's how broadly they were trying to expand fraud. Like in this case, I'm glad it got overturned because otherwise it would set a precarious precedent for everybody.
You actually, I hadn't, because I was, when I'm reading this, I'm like, okay, it definitely is unethical. If they had a contractual prohibition, it would be a contractual violation, lead to termination. But then I'm like, okay, well, it's securities fraud, except they're not treating crypto like a currency, and certainly not in this case. Now that you mentioned like insider info, if you know a fighter's injured before the fight night, and you bet on it,
Right.
okay, yeah, that's a damn good decision. Now, what's the broader
about Tina Peters? We've been advocating for Tina Peters constantly, and we've been giving the roadmap for the Trump administration to do it. Both Tina Peters and Kurt Benschoof and other related cases, victims of lawfare and civil rights violations, they can get them released as witnesses for violations by the state governments and put them into federal custody. Look how quickly and easily they moved Ghislaine Maxwell, right? They can do this when they want to. So it's just on the DOJ to do so. But we have constantly called for Tina Peters to be out, Kurt Benschoof to be out as violations of federal civil rights that they're there, and have given the roadmap for them to do it. It's unfortunately, Tina Peters doesn't have a big lobby paycheck, so she doesn't get hurt by the pay-for-play Pam Bondis of the world.
Robert, where are you this week? We are going to do a show on Wednesday morning, 9:00. Is that confirmed?
Yes. So yes, 9:00 Wednesday. Russians with attitude. These guys are really with attitude too. They're true, honest to God Ruskies. So they can give you their own context for how they see the Ukraine war, how they see President Trump. They'll give you an honest. They understand the whole Russian perspective too. That they used to be like traveling around and they were just Russians with attitude. Then the Ukraine war happened and they became more geopolitical. But they're true, honest to God Ruskies from Moscow. So that it's good to hear that other perspective out there to get how they see it all. So that'll be Wednesday at 9 a.m. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern. We'll be on with Richard Barris. What are the odds? We're going to look at how do different Trump voting groups think of Trump's first 6 months. They'll also have a video they'll probably up on the Duran sometime this week on what's happening on the U.S. economy. And then always Bourbon with Barnes, Tuesday through Thursday. Good voice or not, we'll be there.
I'm going to give everyone the link. I give everyone the link to locals, link to merch, the link to Louis the Lobster Returns to the Sea, children's book that I wrote, illustrated by Abigail Martin, the daughter of a member of our locals community. Here's the link to that link. Boom. And okay, who do I have on? This week is going to be good. It's always my time, 3:00 daily on Rumble. And we're getting ready for the meetup in Chattanooga. Hold on. Events.1776. I will show everyone this link before we head away. A lot of links to support if and when you want and can.
It'll be a lot of fun.
It's going to be amazing.
All the body language panel will be there. Chase Hughes will be there. All the other great ones will be there. The election wizard's going to be there. Richard Barris is going to be there. You name it. They're all going to be there. There'll be Greg Hartley's going to be there. Scott Rouse is going to be there. Viva's going to be there. My brother's going to be there on the political philosophy of the Declaration of Independence, master classes and a whole bunch of subjects, freedom planning, FOIA, how to run a campaign, what it's like Lexi Anderson being a young lawyer in this space. A lot of information, a lot of intel, time to get together. There'll be some family friends of mine that will have barbecue and brunch and whatnot. So it'll be a lot of fun. The 16th and 17th of August.
All right, everybody, those are the links. That's what's happening. Now we're going to go over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com for the after party, but we're going to go raid a boot nothing. This is a recommendation from Neurodivergent. I do not know this individual, but Neurodivergent is one of the mods and helps out a lot. And if my computer's going to work now, it doesn't look like it's... Hold on 1 second. Sweet, merciful goodness, what's going on here? We're going to go raid that channel. Raid. Boom. Does it work? Oh, what the heck? It's not working. Let me find another. Oh. Everybody, we're going to raid someone before we head out of here. I'm going to go to Rumble homepage. Did Rumble freeze up or something? Rumble. Okay, here we go. And now let me try this here. Did everything freeze? Raid. Boom. Oh, confirm raid. Okay, we've done it here. Well, I might have confirmed it. I'm such an idiot. I'm sitting here talking to nobody for the last 2 seconds. Sorry, people. The raid, I believe, has been effected now. Confirm raid. There you go. I'm an idiot. No, I'm not an idiot. I didn't know that I just got kicked out of Rumble. 2 hours, basically, give or take on the nose. Okay, we are going to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. CommieTube, make sure that your notifications are turned on and share my stuff. Drop a comment in the comment section. Rumble, you all know what to do. Locals, here we come. We're going to read all of it. Not all of them. We're going to read a lot. Okay, we're doing it. Everyone, peace out. God, speed, and locals.